Hello, and welcome to the next Marvel panel discussion and review. We are here for the next film in the long and never-ending, as it seems, X-Men series. We've been doing this for how many months now? It just never bloody ends. But we're
It's been
almost
a,
at we're almost at
it's
the
we're in the end game now, basically. We're in the
uh
final stretch.
yeah. But yeah, we are here with Just Callum because
Yep.
yeah, I was on holiday in Australia for a week, and so was Anthony. He was with me, so he did not get a chance to watch this film, and that's fair enough because we've all been very sick. Long story, but yeah, understandably he wanted to sleep, so I was left at the responsibility to watch this film after I just come back. But that's okay. It's my channel, so I have to. Patreon.com/Genesis of Angelani if you'd like to contribute to the channel. We have multiple tiers such as early access, exclusive access, and requesting videos for us to do. And one of those will be coming soon because we have gotten a request lately, so that will be fun. Uh, then we have twitter.com/Giandrazzani if you'd like to get in contact with us or see what we're talking about. That's always fun. I like to stir the pot with, people that don't agree with me,
Hmm.
or send lots of gifts to people that do agree with me. But yes, that's good too. But yeah, Twitter's a very interesting place. It's one of those websites that I always thought I was never going to get into, but then as soon as I got a YouTube channel, it just became such a big part. I don't know why. It just happened. Yeah, and it's great. It has its negatives, but overall, I think Twitter is pretty cool. And I think that's all the plugs. So, I suppose we shouldn't muck around any longer. Callum, give your 2-minute initial thoughts on the film X-Men Apocalypse from 2016.
Oh God. Right. Going into it, I had very little expectations going into it from what I've heard about the reception of this film. I really like Days of Future Past, so I thought this film would be fine because of how much I liked that film, and obviously it's a direct sequel to that. But I knew going into it that I probably wasn't going to enjoy it, and after watching it, I think there were a couple of bright spots, I would say, but overall, it was such a long and boring mess of a film for me. I just, I don't think there was any point where I was just like, oh, I'm actually kind of enjoying it. I was just dreading it the whole way through, and yeah, it wasn't a great watch. There were a couple of things that I liked, like Professor Rex, Magneto, uh, actually, I think that might be kind of it. There's a few directional shots that I liked as well because it's obviously directed by Bryan Singer again. But other than that, it's quite boring. If I'm going to be honest, it's quite a boring film, and it's a massive disappointment after coming off Deadpool and Days of Future Past, which have been two great hits, I would say. So yeah, this film is honestly, for me, it's back to regular X-Men films from most of what I've seen so far. So, well, not surprising, but still, I don't want to watch bad films, and this is kind of a bad and boring film for me.
Yeah. Uh, so I watched the first 45 minutes in Australia, and then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm on a holiday. Why am I watching this? So I stopped. And then today, I picked it up again. Um, and basically what I had to do is I had it on, like I had my computer here. I had the film on the left side of my screen, and on the right side I was doing stuff on Photoshop. Because to be honest, like outside of a few highlights, there's a few highlights in there, but outside of a few highlights, I really did not give a shit about this film at all, which is surprising because the last four I would say were really engaging films, um, especially Deadpool. So to go from that to this was a massive disappointment, especially considering the talent that is in this, that is carried over from the other films, like the actors that we love. Um, and there's some good effects, good direction, and looks pretty, but fuck, it's boring. It's really boring, generic, bland, stupid mess. And there were moments that really angered me. And yeah, it's funny because last week, in the Deadpool review, I was talking about like, and even Days of Future Past, I was talking about like, I would honestly say that these films would rank high if they were in the MCU. This film, I think, would actually rank low for me, even if it was in the MCU. Because Jesus Christ, what was that? But that being said, it's not the worst film of all time, but it's just I really don't want to watch it again, like ever. It's just a very bland, vapid slog, and yeah, there's not a lot positive I have to say about it, honestly. So, and yeah, I was dreading watching it, and unfortunately, I was right. And also, once again, it really didn't help that I didn't have subtitles, because like the first like act of this film is mostly foreign, like Egyptian, Polish,
Yeah,
German, and that wasn't a problem in first class because first class is full of energy. And that wasn't a problem in the Wolverine because the Wolverine was awesome. It was cool, like cool vibes, the Japanese culture thing. But with this, it was just so boring and just oh yeah. But yeah, I think this is the film that really signifies the franchise fatigue because I think you could definitely say that for the most part, this really wasn't necessary. Like, I don't see why they had to do this film outside of like small reasons, like oh, we need to show Professor X being bald and what else? Introduce Jean Grey and Scott, I suppose. Again, in a prequel. Uh, what else? Nothing. Nothing really. But yeah, I'll save my other thoughts for the details. But yeah, basically, not good. Is my thoughts.
right. There's such a weird film because none of it really pissed me off. Nothing really got me angry apart from one thing, and that was mainly due to predictability. But there was also a lot of baffling things that I was thinking. Like weird. I know, like we had the whole timeline being restored in Days of Future Past, but it still brings up problems because you're thinking how certain things align, just that don't really connect to the change. Like, for example, Scott discovers his powers in this film and then goes to the school, but in X-Men Origin, he already has his powers and he's still in his own school and not in the mutant school. So yeah, it's like there's stuff that like doesn't make sense, even though there's a time like rebuilding and it's been reset. There's still stuff that doesn't make sense. So that's an example I would say. It's just like it doesn't. This film just doesn't feel right to me. It's just so many things that I just
And
can't get on board with.
it doesn't give me hope that like the build up to Dark Phoenix is meant to be like the thing that answers all of the questions from this film. And what people think about Dark Phoenix. So yeah, it's a little bit depressing. I'll say that.
Yeah, like the whole thing with fucking Dark Phoenix in this film, it's 2 scenes and that's it. It only gets 2 scenes of build up, and then it's in the final battle, and then that's it. And then that whole stuff is going to be made into an entire film. So it it feels so weird to me because I didn't care about it. I thought the acting was pretty shoddy apart from Professor X. So that I'm not looking forward to when we get to Dark Phoenix. So
Anyway, we'll start with Professor X. I mean, the actor, obviously, we love the actor, but like, you know how it is. It's just, it's not. It doesn't feel right. He's so. his story feels like it lacks purpose in this film. The only interesting part about it is the fact that he goes bald, really, and the fact that he's bouncing off other characters like Jean and Magneto. Like he's sort of just there to be a. I don't know. He feels stagnant in this film. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's not like I dislike him because obviously James McAvoy is very charismatic, and I think in terms of his performance, he feels very close to Patrick Stewart's performance, and I love that about his acting. That's one thing I can say I really like about the film. But in terms of the way he's written it, he had nowhere near as much presence as he did in First Class or Days of Future Past, and it's disappointing.
I mean, like he gets kidnapped like halfway through the film, and is in only a certain amount of scenes.
Yeah, I would say it's probably Professor X's worst, but it's not because that's X-Men 3.
Yeah, because he dies.
Yeah.
He dies for no reason.
So, although you could argue Origins, but that's just a cameo.
Mm.
That's been wiped. It doesn't even exist now.
Yeah. Again, like I don't know. So, but then I'm thinking, like, how did he go bald in the original timeline? Did this happen, but Scott wasn't there because Scott was in high school and then got kidnapped in Origins? You see what I mean? With like, it's so the continuity, even though there's a time reset, it's still so weird.
If Origins just didn't exist, this would be so much better.
Yeah,
that one film ruins everything.
Mm. Yeah, because because he's walking in bald, but in this he's in a wheelchair with hair, and then he goes bald. But how did he go bald in the original? Did this happen, but without Scott and stuff?
Like I know obviously we really didn't like that film at the time of watching it.
Regardless, yeah.
But with every film that we watch from here, it just gets worse and worse and worse and more pointless. Mm. Origins is fucking trash. Like what is the point of it? Literally, it's not even good, and it doesn't mean anything, and it's wiped. So,
but even with its wipeness, the fact that it existed, it messes up with the continuity of future films because things don't align properly, even with the time reset.
Yeah, and it's also a big problem because one of the biggest parts of the original trilogy was building up to finding out his past. And then they made that film to have you find out his past, and then all the problems arose from it. It's one of the worst, like, just black holes in a series I've seen, where just one film just destroys things left and right. Bugger. But yeah.
Like his acting is great as it normally is, and there's a lot of good moments with him. He just lacks a sort of purpose. He's only there really to be kidnapped and the threat of being turned into. I can't even remember the guy's name. I don't remember his name at all. But whoever Oscar Isaac played, he was like meant to be transferred into him, and it's like, cool, but not really. It's like. There's just a lot of stuff wrong with this film, and it's a shame because he's pretty wasted because the actor was so good in First Class and Days of Future Past.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, the irony of the fact that one of the jokes from this film that's actually really funny is when they're talking about, like, I think they're talking about Star Wars. And like,
oh, God, that was so out of place, though. Why was it funny? It was so out of place.
I know. But, like, the irony of that, though, the fact that they're like, they're arguing about whether Empire or Star Wars is better. And then Jean says, but we all know the worst one's always the third one. But the irony is this is the third one.
Yeah, like I was like saying, like, this is the third one. So you're making fun of yourselves that you know this is bad? Or did you actually think this was good and now you look stupid?
Because that joke is meant to be a jab at X-Men 3. Which is true, because it's the worst
but
of the...
But this is also the third of this trilogy. Or quadrilogy.
Well, yeah, but it's also the worst of the three so far as well. Like, First Class...
So whatever intention it was, it makes the joke stupid. And it makes this film stupid.
Yeah, so you not only like reminded us of how bad X-Men 3 was, which makes the series bad, you not only completely shot yourself in the foot by referencing something that you would do yourself, but you also bash Return of the Jedi for no reason. Because
It's like
even though Return of the Jedi is better than like most films in this series,
it's better than like 80% of these films. I like fucking, and also Scott had to be an idiot and be like, oh, but if it wasn't for the first one, then the others wouldn't exist. Is like, yeah, but the others can still be better. That doesn't make them lesser than the first. That's a backwards way of thinking. So again, while the joke was funny, but it was only funny because, let's be honest, it's Star Wars and that's more interesting than this pile of shit of a film.
and also
It's still
I
a
will
joke
say,
that ruins the film.
and also if there's anyone out there that thinks that X-Men Apocalypse is a better film than Return of the Jedi, you need to go home and rethink your life.
You do, like, it's like just like in terms of writing, in terms of continuity, in terms of performances, in terms of purpose.
It's just a fun film. It's good fun. It's never boring, or at least for me, it's not. Maybe.
And I would say it ends the trilogy off well. It's a good ending, I would say.
Well, it's probably it's a bit silly, but like,
oh yeah,
miles better than this shit.
Yeah, I'd rather watch Return of the Jedi than most of the X-Men films.
Yeah, let alone this one, which is just.
Oh yeah, I'm most probably never gonna watch this film again because I don't want to.
It's
because
just got it's got the whole
good acting and writing.
It's got the whole Chibnall effect of just blandness, and you're like, oh god.
Yeah. Though honestly, I'd rather watch 42 just for the aesthetic than this.
And it's short.
And and there's like 2 scenes that I really like from 42, but then that's pretty much it. I don't like most scenes in this.
Also, similar to X-Men 2, this film is way too fucking long. It's like 2 hours 20.
Yeah, I was looking at the time of how long this was, and I'm like, God, this is just about a little bit short of an X-Men 2, and it's just like.
At least X-Men 2 had some substance to it.
I would say the only out of the 2 films, I would say this one went a bit quicker in my mind. Obviously, it was shorter, but it still felt quicker than X-Men 2. It doesn't make it any less bad, but at least it felt it was over quicker. Because X-Men 2 was an absolute slog of a film.
That's true. However, it did have a lot of highlights, unlike this.
It did. Yeah, like Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mystique was great in that one. That was Remigin's best one, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, when I saw the time on this 2 hours 20, I'm like, oh god, here we go.
Yeah.
And like there's 2 hour 20 films that are great, like Avengers is 2 hours 20, but that's because it's fucking brilliant and so fun.
And it's never boring at any point. You could argue maybe the first 20 minutes to half an hour is pretty boring, but it's all set up.
It's not for me. It's not for me because
it's not.
It's not for me because I actually like Thor 1. So like the Loki invading Earth thing is really cool for me.
Yeah.
The only part that I could maybe see is when they're like, when they're sitting down on the carrier, I think, in the middle. Maybe that. Apart from that, like everything in the second act is non-stop in Avengers. Like the problem with X-Men Apocalypse is even the fucking fight scenes at the end were boring.
Yeah. Like, I just didn't care about most of the characters in this entire film. I think the worst characters in the film for me were Scott, Jean, and the main villain. I think.
Well, we'll get to those. We'll get to those. But Professor X, I love the final shot of the door closing on him when he's bald. That is great. But everything that happens before that is just such a waste of this actor and this character.
He actually looks a lot like Patrick Stewart when he's bald as well.
Yeah, this could have been a brilliant film for him. It could have been, and with the way it ends, like it would have ended that the same way, and it would have been very satisfying. But because the film wasn't good,
it's so weird because this end of the film feels like this trilogy is complete, but we know there's another fucking film with these characters and these actors. It's so weird. This feels like it's the end, and it's going into, at the very least, it's going into where Days of Future Past ended with Logan in the future back in his time. But no, there's another film of Dark which is called Dark Shit Phoenix. So, God.
And
But
then,
yeah,
fucking
Professor X is great.
and then after that, Kevin Feige put them out of their misery.
Yeah, it's they stopped these films when it should have ended after this film. Then you have Logan and Deadpool 2, and that should have been it. They should not have made another prequel kind of, but also saying out the new continuity film.
Yeah, so a prequel to the third film in a prequel trilogy to another trilogy. Like it's completely
which is like the new trilogy because it's a time reset. So it's like, I don't know. It's just such a weird film.
Like I miss like Wolverine and Deadpool because those films like were standalone and didn't have to deal with this shit. Like it's just it was focused and it had a story and it was enjoyable. This is not.
Yeah, this film just lacks a whole bunch of like intrigue, plot lines, or characters that really matter. As good as Professor X is, again, he feels very second note comparing him to other films. And I sort of the same with Magneto, but at least with Magneto, he has sort of a like emotional. You can have like an emotional connection with him in this film.
I was going to bring up Magneto next. I think Magneto's he's interesting because I feel like the first half gets it really right with him. It's just the final act. It kind of I don't know why. It just the focus goes away from his family and turns into this just monster bash bullshit. And I was like,
I will say though, when I was watching it and that scene came up, when they entered the forest for the first time, I was like, and we saw the soldiers. I'm like, oh my God, I bet that the daughter and mother are gonna die. And then they did, but in a stupid way that really annoyed me because the soldier just let go of his bow and arrow when looking at the birds without pointing it at them. I was just like, that is so stupid. And the fact that the arrow went through both of them when really it would just pierce the back of the daughter and she probably would have died, but it would not have gone through both of them. And I was just like,
she made of like tissue paper or something.
Yeah, like, I get that she's a kid, but the arrow wasn't even all the way back, or it wasn't even like fiercely pulled or anything like that.
Concentrating.
No, he half-assed it because he was looking at the birds.
It's not a bloody bullet.
Yeah, it's just like that's. Not only was that scene so predictable, it was so stupid.
You know, it's funny because like we were ragging on the scene in Spider-Man 3 when Sandman kills Ben Parker, and we're like, that's a little bit silly. This is even worse because
it's worse because it could have been so, one, avoidable, but also two, it's so predictable, and three, it's stupid. It's just like what I will say, I do like the Magneto story in this film to a degree.
From a character
perspective and what Magneto has gone through the prequel trilogy of this, because I have liked his sort of journey. I'm a bit iffy on him constantly going back to, I'm going to kill everybody now thing. I think that's the one sort of thing that I didn't like. I do like the emotional trauma that he has in this film, and I think the actor does a fantastic job at that because he's been great for all these films in terms of his acting capabilities.
Yeah,
but it's predictable and it's just stressful and frustrating to see something just like, I know this is going to turn out and I know how this is going to go, and then like you said, it drops off by the final act and we kind of forget about all his family stuff.
There's one scene in this film where I got so fucking angry. It was the scene where I would say Michael Fassbender had his best acting moment in the whole damn film. He was I can't remember who he's talking to. I think it may have been I don't even remember, but it's a scene in the middle of the film where he's basically explaining like what he's lost, and it's very emotional. Because obviously, like I said, I was working on other stuff at the time because I was just sort of half focusing on it. But his performance really pulled me into the scene. Like I like focused on it because I was like, wow, this is actually really, really good. But then the fucking villain turns up and it just ruins it. Oh!
Oh yeah,
It's
and then you have the "Who the fuck are you" line. Is that
oh,
what
it
you're on about?
just ruins the scene.
It's such a waste of the F bomb as well. It's such a waste. It's not like the whole Logan cameo in First Class when that
Yeah,
was brilliantly done. It's like,
yeah,
oh, let's take away this traumatic moment of him about to kill all his workmates because he's now back to being Magneto, and he's having this really emotional, intense moment where he's talking about them thinking about their family and now how they're gonna lose them. To then turn around and say, like, "Who the fuck are you?" And it's just like,
yeah,
really? Really?
yeah.
Is this that kind of film where we're subverting our expectations, but in a shit
Exactly.
way?
Exactly. I was gonna say that because as if many of you've been watching for a long time, you'll know that I've got a very sort of iffy relationship with subversive storytelling. Like I'm sort of love hate on it,
That
depending
was
on
like it was like a Last Jedi joke to
yeah.
me.
It depends on how it's executed. But I feel like in
Yeah,
Apocalypse there was several moments, subversive moments that really didn't work. Like this one in particular completely fucked the scene. It was so bad. It was anger, fury. Why would you ruin that scene? Like imagine if fucking in First Class during the satellite scene, like Beast comes in and like gives him a fucking hug or something. Like it just wouldn't. It would just be dumb. And he's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Like it just. Why would you ruin a scene like that with such a good actor in it?
yeah. Hmm.
The most powerful
And
character.
then they all just die anyway, but Magneto doesn't do it. Like they all die anyway, and Magneto doesn't do it. It's just like, what a waste.
I mean, why would we want to have purpose in a film?
Mm.
It's just a little thing that people do if they want to, fit into a box. We're just gonna do random stuff because it's surprising. Hey, hey, hey. But the fact of the matter is, this film isn't surprising. It's so fucking predictable. It's shit. Anyway, um, but yeah, in the last act of the film, Magneto was really disappointing. It felt like a caricature of what he was doing in Days of Future Past. It was very oof.
It's a shame because I think what he actually did in the final fight when he put up the X with the two metal like bar things. Like I think if it was properly built up to, that could have been a really great moment. But it feels unearned in a way
It's also quite
because
confusing.
yeah,
It's quite confusing because you got to balance in your head that you've just seen a film with Magneto from our timeline before the Days of Future Past reset. So you kind of got to figure out in your head like what's going on from here. Like, do
yeah.
the events of the original trilogy not happen now?
I
It's
guess they
very
don't. I don't think they do now because of this. Which in a sense I'm not bothered about, but at the same time it's like this is worse, I would say.
I feel like the biggest problem with it, I would say, is with the reset is that because Logan and Charles are the only ones that can remember it.
Yeah.
So when you get to this film, and obviously, Charles is in it, but he's sort of, he's not. He never really references that. He knows that it's changed. And obviously Logan has a cameo, but we'll mention that later. But because the characters that were impacted by the story in Days of Future Past did not react to that in this film, makes this film feel so much less significant because like what's the point? Like it's just another timeline and it's literally what this film is just Professor X telling Logan what happened. Like it's just basically him saying, "Oh yeah, what happened from when you last saw me to now?" And yep, this is what happened and it was very average to mediocre to bad. So why
Yeah.
bother? Why bother watching this film? It's not necessary. It's
It's
not
yeah,
not
it's
needed.
the only importance that you can sort of have with it is that it introduces Scott and Jean, but even then we know that they come up anyway.
I don't need to fucking see it. I don't
Yeah.
give a shit. Like it's just so unnecessary.
Yeah, they didn't need them in this film at all. It felt very tacked on. And it's worse because like for example, Sophie Turner was fucking awful in this film. She is such
All right, let's move on to
Mhm.
Jean Grey then, if you
Yeah.
want to talk about it now.
Yeah, because holy shit. must be better in Game of Thrones to some extent,
Oh
because
yes.
in this film she cannot act for the life of her. Like, I would never believed her. I never was engaged by her. I was never feeling sorry for the character. I never was hanging on to every word that they were saying. It was just such a poor performance.
Well, there's a few reasons for that. One of them is casting. So
Yeah.
Jean Grey and Sansa Stark could not be more different as characters, and it's very evident that she suits one and not the other. Second one is, um, because it's a prequel, you're comparing her to the actress who played Jean Grey in the other films, and she is absolutely nothing like her. Unlike, we were saying Jennifer Lawrence in First Class was a little bit different to Rebecca, and it was a bit irritating, but that's nothing compared to this. This is
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous how different she is. It's insulting. Another reason for that is the writing. This film's writing is not good, as opposed to A Song of Ice and Fire books, which are absolutely brilliant when adapted to TV. For at the very least, the first 4 seasons were absolutely brilliant. So she had a lot of great material to work with, was alongside great actors, and the story was excellent. And Sansa Stark as a character in the books is unbelievable. She is such like, I love the fact that she is this. She appears like a spoilt princess girl because she is the firstborn lady of Ned Stark, but she's brought up in this family of great morals. There's so many grey perspectives going on there, and the fact that she gets put through this torture, the fact that she's being owned by Cersei and Littlefinger, and it's just brilliant. And because Sophie Turner has this ability to be vulnerable, it's fantastic. But the problem is, Jean Grey's not vulnerable. She's a fucking Mary Sue in this film. There's nothing interesting about her. I don't like her. And fuck it. Bad. Terrible performance. Bad characterization. And the end is just Professor X going, ha ha ha, unleash your power. Ha ha. It felt like something out of an anime, and I didn't like it. And that's my rant. And I'm not looking forward to Dark Phoenix because that means she's going to be the main character.
It literally is named in her character, Dark Phoenix, and that's the whole point of it. So I'm not looking forward to that because I was just so put aback by this performance, by this character, and I'm just like, I don't want her on screen at all. And it just makes me feel so empty towards the character. Like, I don't care about the character
You know what
anymore.
this is? Do you know what this reminds me of? It's the same thing with Maisie Williams in Doctor Who. She's great in Game of Thrones, like in the early stages, but in Doctor Who as a Shilda, she's fucking awful.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's what happens when you take an inexperienced actor or actress out of a series that is so wonderfully written that they are cast perfectly for and put them in something that they're not comfortable with. You have to be
For the
careful.
sake of it.
You have to be careful
Yeah,
because these people are still teenagers. They're not experienced enough to have this kind of range. Just because they're charismatic and attractive doesn't mean they're going to be a good actress or good actor.
With certain characters, it's just, yeah. But I just like, I don't get, like, she was cast only because she's well known in Game of Thrones, and that's the only reason why. You can't tell me that she had a great audition or anything like that, or she was perfectly cast. That she is great as Phoenix.
It's funny because she's not even.
No.
She doesn't even have red hair in real life.
No.
She has red hair in Game of Thrones, and in this, but not real life.
No, she's like blonde or whatever.
Yeah. She's tall, I suppose. I would not understand why you would look at Sansa Stark's character and be like, oh yeah, that would be good for Jean Grey. Like, that just doesn't click with me because they couldn't be more different. Literally couldn't be more different. Like, Sansa is a character that has to send letters to her brother to surrender a war. She gets, like, raped by a crazed lunatic. She's forced into marriages she doesn't want to have. She has her family members die. She's a very vulnerable character, and then she ends up being like a chess master by the end. I don't understand how the fuck that translates to I am unleash Super Saiyan power, grr.
Yeah, it's just it's just like in terms of like her whole thing at the end of the film with her like saving Charles, and the whole build up in quotations of her like unleash your power and stuff like that. It was just like we only had one other scene where she was like worried about her powers or dreams or whatever, so it didn't feel earned
I
at all
really
to be like,
also I've got to mention I really don't like the way that Professor X says unleash your power. It does not feel like his character. It
no,
feels so
it feels
weird.
so weird. Yeah, I don't. It'd make more sense if he was just like a believe in yourself that you can do this. That's something that Professor X would say. He wouldn't say unleash your full power, Gene. And it's just like
Yeah,
that's
it's like
so.
something that like a Yu-Gi-Oh villain would say.
Yeah, it's a that's very
Oh, and
mischaracterized.
I've got to say like this film takes so many anime tropes, but it doesn't translate well to film because it's live action. You
Yeah.
know, like how people say that live action anime is always terrible. Like it's true because this film does that, and it's like, oh, but it's Egyptian. We're gonna make it like like that kind of thing. But no,
Yeah, it doesn't
no, it
work.
doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. There's a big difference between a cartoon drawing saying "Unleash your power," like fucking the Pharaoh Artem from Yu-Gi-Oh saying "Unleash your power." Like that's very different to, or fucking Goku going Super Saiyan. It's very different to a live-action X-Men film with characters that have established
Yeah.
personalities.
Yeah, we even had like a villain who was like, "I shall unlock your full potential."
Oh God.
Stuff.
Okay, fuck. I can't hold it any longer. We've got to talk about Apocalypse.
Oh, is that his actual name? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Oh
Apocalypse.
my
All right.
God. So yeah, this guy is straight out of like Yu-Gi-Oh. It's like I waited
Oh
10
yeah.
years to see you, Pharaoh, and I have the power. And then the Magneto's like, why didn't you work with me? He's like, I was hidden in the underworld in the Shadowlands, and I am back to be on your side. Like, it's just fucking stupid. I don't know what the fuck that was. And Oscar Isaac, I didn't even know that was him acting. Like, it's just like how Chris Eccleston was in Darkwood as Malekith. Like, you just can't tell. It's like,
I was literally thinking that, like, as I was like seeing, I was like, you know what this reminds me of? It
yeah,
reminds me of what's that film saying? What that's film name? Oh yeah, Dark World. It reminds me of that.
yeah.
This film, you know what? This film is like Dark World. I've just like sort of felt like I felt like since I started watching it, and now this is kind of the X-Men version of Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, except it's sort of more of a team up film than a Thor solo film.
Yeah.
It's God.
Though
It's got this.
I would say that it's Dark World is quite misconceiving as a Thor film because it really isn't a Thor film. Let's be
No, it's
honest.
not.
He's
It's
very
a Jean Grey. Oh no, not Jean Grey. Sorry, what's her
Jane
name?
Foster.
Jane Foster. So it's very similar. It's a Jane Foster film. It's the prequel to Love
Yeah,
and
and then
Thunder.
Love and Thunder is going to be Dark Phoenix.
Hmm. God,
Uh,
like if God, I just no, never mind. But yeah, but it's like, this film is basically like the Dark World of the X-Men films, and it's the villains are so similar, where they're like, "I want to destroy the world." I can't remember what specifically Apocalypse's like plan is or motivation is, but he basically is trying to just destroy the world.
it's funny because you say that because then now that I think about it, like Magneto kind of plays the Loki role where his character like drama is the best part of the film, but
Hmm.
then in the third act he's completely redundant. Although to be fair, in Dark World it's because he's dead, but in this it's you could argue it's even worse because he's actually there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a point there. This is kind of like the Dark World of the X-Men because
It's
it's
got the
fucking
same sort of aesthetic as well.
it's
It's very
dull.
similar in like color. It's very similar in like performances as well.
Yeah.
There's so many dull characters. Yeah, this
It's
is kind
yeah.
of Dark World.
It's dull. It has bad comedy. The villains have like a cool vibe, but the actual characterization is as fucking stale as a pancake.
Yeah,
Like,
the performance isn't good at all.
ugh.
Like Oscar Isaac is like I've only ever seen him in one film, in one series, I guess you could say, in it's Star Wars. That's the only thing I've seen him in, and then
He's
to
gonna
see
be
him in this.
he's gonna be in June as well.
Mm. Yeah, it's just like his performance was not good at all. I was never.
Yeah, I think he's brilliant in Force Awakens. Like he
Yeah,
is,
I think it's fun. I think it's fun in Force Awakens.
but it's just he just doesn't suit this. And again, it's like when you with Chris Eccleston, like he's 10 out of 10 as the Ninth Doctor, but then as Malekith, it's like what is this? Like
This is
generic,
not. Yeah, it's not
you
right.
know. And you see him in interviews, and like he's got more character in interviews than he does in the fucking film. Like,
Yeah.
what is Malekith about? Oh, he wants vengeance.
Mhm.
What does Apocalypse want? Who the fuck knows? Ancient
Destroy.
Egyptian destroy the final boss. Big blue meanie. Though I will say, I do like the special effects and like
Oh yeah, the production values
the
is all
right.
fine. It's all good.
Yeah,
It's like it looks good in terms of like the effects.
yeah.
Like there are
But
some
yeah,
cool effects in this film.
then again, comparing to Dark World, like the final fight with Thor and Malekith looks cool. Like the special
Yeah.
effects are fine, but it's not that interesting.
Yeah, like in this film, the dream sequence is a cool concept, but you can't connect to it because you're not connected to the characters properly. So like it's just visuals and there's nothing really else to it.
Hmm. Yeah, but no, Apocalypse was shit. I thought he was a very bad villain. Like,
Mhm.
possibly,
I just didn't care. I just
maybe
didn't care.
it might be the worst in the X-Men series. Honestly, I can't think. Well, would there be one that's?
Uh,
Oh no, it's not as bad as Weapon 11 from
yeah, Weapon 11 is bad, but it's for different reasons, I would say.
because with Weapon 11 we know that it's Deadpool, so it's kind of like shit.
Like I can't. The only sort of X-Men villains I could sort of think of are Magneto, for example.
Well, there's William Stryker, I suppose.
Again, he was in this
Mystique,
film, and
I
again, I
suppose.
didn't care. Mystique and I'm trying to think. Oh well, you had the samurai in the Wolverine. You
Right.
had God. I'm trying to think. There's a villain at the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it.
First Class. No, that was Magneto.
Oh, Deadpool villain. I can't remember his name,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
but I can remember it. I just can't remember
Oh,
his
it's
name.
Ryan's character, whatever his name was.
Yeah. Wherever it's like those are like the main villains. Other than that, I can't think this franchise having very memorable villains outside of those.
Outside of
And
Magneto, obviously, who's
yeah,
the
outside of yeah, yeah.
apart from this film, which is odd because even in the films that aren't great, like X-Men 3, like I always loved Magneto, but
Mhm.
not this one. It's sad.
He's
Really,
like a tweener in this film, like like a tweener.
fucking
But
like
in Days, he was pretty much a good guy, and
old
in the
old
past one, he
Magneto.
was a bad guy.
Old Magneto in Days of Future Past had like 3 scenes, and he was better in that than he was in this.
Yeah.
Just old Magneto, let alone young as well.
Mm.
Yeah, just I don't understand how they didn't realize how pointless this fucking film was.
It's
Like,
a
it just
very
didn't
pointless
need
film.
to happen. It just didn't need to happen.
I was like, when I was like watching it, like my brother came into the room and he's like, "Why are you watching this?" I'm like, "Well, I've got to review it tomorrow." And he's just like, "Well, it's all just shit to say that." I'm just like, I mean, I agree. It's a pretty awful film.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. As soon as Apocalypse came on screen, I'm just like, I just don't fucking care. Like, go away.
Like costumes, okay, I guess it's a decent design, but other than that, you can't
I mean,
connect
he
with
kind
it
of looks
because
like
the characters are good.
he kind of looks like a shitty blue Thanos. Like,
He looks like a Power Ranger villain. He
he's
really
like
does.
it'd be like a mix. That's a weird combination, like Power Rangers and Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what it feels like because it's kind of over the top, like Power Rangers is, but then you've got the mixture of like effects and sort of style that Dark World has. So
Mm.
but it's not a good mix and it's poorly done.
Yeah, I mean, Dark World's got Asgard, and it's got what else? Anything? No, not really. I was trying to think of other positives. It's kind of difficult. It's got the connection to Endgame. And there's the Thor and Loki scenes are good, especially when he's pretending to be Captain America. That's funny.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, but no. Uh, so are we done talking about Apocalypse? Like,
Yeah, because there's nothing else to say.
yeah, it's just so shit. um, God, I fucking hate the scene at the end. Like, I know that it's supposed to be all the X-Men team up to kill him, but like, I just really didn't like it. Like, it just felt. And I know the word I'm about to use is not factually correct, but it felt like a Deus Ex Machina. And I know that's not correct because technically speaking, there is obviously a build up to it, but it screamed of the anime ending of unleash your power at the very most convenient moment when you need to. Like it was, and it had no purpose. That's the biggest problem I had with it is it had no purpose. Um, Compare that to something like, Last of the Time Lords. A lot of people don't like when the 10th Doctor goes all powerful when he becomes younger. The difference being that has so much purpose for the characters, and the build up to it is brilliant, and what happens after is brilliant. Whereas with this, it's not. So it's just so flat. Despite the fact that the scene presents, Dark Phoenix and the team as this massive unit and this great power, and we are the X-Men, but nah, just didn't feel it at all. It felt like nothing.
Mm. Like the whole like team, every member of the team, I just didn't feel anything for. I didn't feel anything for Nightcrawler. I didn't feel anything for Scott. I didn't feel anything for Quicksilver. Even though I liked him in Days of Future Past, I think what they did with him in this film was very tacked on. I know that Magneto is Quicksilver's father in the comics, along with Scarlet Witch, but you can't just do that and expect me to instantly latch onto it because you've still got to build up to it. You've still got to write it
Mm.
well. You can't just cheat and think, oh, but no, they did it in the comics. It's like, first of all, it can still be bad even if it's from the comics, and also it still needs to be built up to properly. It's a yeah. So like all the like X-Men team members, I just didn't care for like
Yeah,
pretty much all of them.
this is probably the first time since X-Men 3 that I could agree with you on that. This is the first one where it's like, yeah, there's pointless side characters that don't mean jack shit to the story,
Hmm.
and that's a
Like you
shame
have you
because
have
that's a
the
step
like
backwards.
yeah, it is a step backwards. Like you've got Scott's brother who we've seen since First Class, and I think he was in Days of Future Past, but only for a little bit, and then he dies in this film due to the explosion of the mansion. And then you've got Scott like grieving for it, but it's not properly done. It was pretty poorly executed, but there's nothing for Scott to overcome. I feel like
Yeah. Oh, and Scott and Jean's romance, like,
is awful.
it's so forced,
It is like
and it ruins the other films because the actors that actually play them as adults have really good chemistry.
just they don't do. My biggest problem with the original trilogy was that it just felt like they kept saying they were together, even though they didn't share any sort of like connection. For
Mm,
me, every time they were together, I never bought them as a couple because they never like were intimate together. They were
yeah.
never,
Well,
apart from
this
when
is
Scott died, but that was awful.
yeah.
So like,
Well, I mean, this was the chance to show it, but they just
yeah,
didn't.
it really was, and they completely blew it because
Yeah,
they
what the
didn't
fuck?
care.
What the fuck is this? This is what the fourth, fifth, sixth film with Scott in it, and
And
it's
he's
still been
wasted again. They
wasted
just can't.
again.
I remember when I saw him, I was like, well, let's see how they waste him this time. And they do waste him because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have an arc. He doesn't have anything to
He
overcome.
opens his eyes.
He has to learn with his powers, but that's it. Even though it's simple, he just has to remove his goddamn glasses. There's nothing for him to overcome. It's a waste. It's a waste because, and I'm annoyed by it the most because I want to really like this character because I think this character can have so much goddamn potential. Every film he'd had in the original trilogy had so much potential, but he was either taken out of the film for most of it, or they didn't do anything with him, or they killed him off. And it's just like, I don't understand why then keep putting him in films but doing nothing with him. It's starting to really piss me off because I want to really.
How do you be in like 6 films and still not be used properly?
Yeah, like together they don't even make a complete film arc. That's how wasted he is as a character. And it's the same with Storm. It's the same with Storm in this film. She's in this film, but she does fuck all again.
She still has no character.
She still has no character. She is a bad guy, but then like, oh wait, but Apocalypse is trying to destroy the world, but no, he's being mean to these other guys, and now I'm gonna be good. So she's like, what?
It's like a fucking like a shitty version of the Age of Ultron with like Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, but that again, at the very least, had purpose because there was character
and there was an arc to it.
And obviously, you know, they had the bad accents, but like that's a minor flaw.
Yeah,
but there was something. There was something there.
It's just so weird to me because in this version of reality, Storm was fine with Apocalypse destroying the world up until he saw him choke Mystique out, and I was just like, what? What? But where did they find you in the original trilogy? In that continuity, did you just show up randomly with silver hair? You know, it's like, what is this? What? God, this franchise is just a fucking mess. It really is. I know, like, going into this whole thing, I'm like, surely it's not that much of a mess. But no, it is. It's all over the place. The continuity is so on.
Which is why when I was going to Days of Future Past, I was like, surely this can't work. Like, there's no way they can get this to work.
I mean, but it does. It's like Days of Future Past, like, is the only film apart from Deadpool where I can really say like that. What it tried to do, it pulled off. What it tried to do, it succeeded in almost all fronts. Every single film in this franchise, apart from those two, I cannot say I think on purpose they succeeded with everything, or at least almost everything they tried to set out.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like these films are like purposely trying to mischaracterize or waste characters that people care about, like Scott, like Storm. It's like, what's the point? What is the point of you putting these characters in these films when you're not going to do anything with them? I've never seen a bunch of films in a franchise waste so many characters for no reason. So I don't get it. I really don't.
And the thing is, like, you know, for example, like the Amazing Spider-Man films, right? Really bad, but there's only 2 of them.
Yeah.
And at the very least, the main characters do get screen time. With this, there's like 6 films for 2 characters, and they have no fucking purpose at all.
Yeah.
And
At the
Storm,
very fucking least.
I can't tell you one thing about Storm's character, and she's been in 6 films.
Yeah. At the very fucking least, for the Amazing Spider-Man films, for as much as I fucking despise them, especially 2, I despise 2. At the very least, they had arcs. Even though they were garbage, they at least had a blueprint of A, B, and C, a beginning, middle, and end. It was awful, it was trash, and I hated it. But at the very fucking least, they tried to do an arc. With these films, Scott hasn't even had A to B, a beginning or middle. He's just fucking there. I honestly, when we started this, I did not think I would get this worked up over a fucking X-Men film. Because before this, I didn't give 2 shits about the X-Men franchise, apart from Deadpool and Logan. Didn't care about anything else. But man, I don't understand how this franchise went on this long, making quite a lot of money, let's be honest. With this much wasted potential, or wasted characters, and wasted films. It's infuriating as a film like fan and someone who loves dissecting films when there's so much of these films that have nothing to dissect. There's almost nothing to dissect with, like, the side characters that give you that little bit extra flair to it. It's just like, it's so infuriating.
Yeah,
it almost feels like you waste your time. in a
And
sense.
with some of the other films, like with the originals, I was like, oh yeah, but I can still enjoy Wolverine, with Hugh Jackman. I can still enjoy
Yeah.
Professor X with Patrick Stewart, and I can enjoy Magneto as well. But with this one, it just, oh goodness me, like it's so
Yeah.
boring.
Like I don't like the original X-Men trilogy, the first three as a whole, but at the very least, they had characters I could connect with, or interested in, was interested to see where they would go and see where they would end up. Like Logan, Professor X, and Magneto. Not really anybody else, but those three, I was really interested in seeing how they were gonna go. But with this franchise, apart from Professor X and Magneto, and it's really only because of the actors. I do not care where these characters go. I don't care what their arcs are. I don't care what they learn or what they are motivated
Especially,
by.
especially because Days of Future Past made such a good conclusion on it as well.
Yeah. hmm
Like the
It's
end
just
of
like
that film is so
this
satisfying
film.
for those
This film has
characters.
like ruined a lot of characters by having them be so purposeless. It's such a misguided franchise. This whole thing, it's so misguided. It's so all over the place in terms of style, in terms of what it's setting out to do, what's it's setting out for its characters. It's nothing. It's just nothing. It's a shame because there are actually a few hidden gems in this franchise, like Days of Future Past. And Deadpool is fucking great. And I would say Logan is great. We're going to be reviewing that next because I can't wait to get to that because it's going to be so different from this boring nothingness mess that is the not only the prequel X-Men franchise, but the franchise as a fucking whole. It's just like
And especially considering the last four films were actually entertaining as well.
Hmm.
Like First Class, Wolverine, Days of Future Past, and Deadpool were all very entertaining films.
yeah.
But
Some better than
no.
others, and some were great, but at the very least, there was a consistency of quality.
And they
With
were
this,
and
we're
they were
going
also
back
all
to shit.
different as well. They were all different.
Yeah. This just feels like it's a style of nothing.
Yeah. And it sucks.
It feels like we've just gone through every single other character in the X-Men team.
Well, I'll have a look at it again. Oh, we still haven't talked about Mystique yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Mystique feels quite. It's weird. Mystique feels different than Days of Future Past for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. She feels different.
She was so. We're talking about Jennifer Lawrence, right? So in First Class, her performance was very off, and it was quite odd. And then in Days of Future Past, she was brilliant. She was actually very good in that film, and the character was excellent. And then this one, it's like, oh,
she's a role model. That's her character.
yes,
And she's like, I'm no hero, even though you saved the president, so you are technically a hero.
yeah.
It's just like,
I mean,
what's it? Is she like going through an arc of, I'm not a hero, I'm flawed, and I'm still good? As like, I mean, yeah, that's in concept, that's a decent arc, but in execution, it was pretty bland. It felt very mischaracterized. It felt like there was no real through line. There was never really an end goal with it. It was just sort of there.
One of the best things about Mystique as a character is her sense of humor. And she had absolutely no sense of humor in this film at all.
Yeah, she didn't have a single
completely
there was
utterly dry. And the annoying thing is this film has a lot of forced comedy in it, but she got none of it. Like I was like, what? What's this?
I can't even remember most of the comedy in this film, to be honest, because that's how bland it was.
Oh yeah.
I can only remember one joke, and that was the Magneto one, but that was shit because it ruined a great moment, or what could have been a great moment.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't remember a single other joke apart from the Return of the Jedi one.
There's a few with Nightcrawler, but they're shit.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's true.
And you know why it doesn't work? Because it's not Alan Cummings.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know who played this guy.
It's not even the same bloody character.
It's a completely different character.
Yeah.
It's just wearing Nightcrawler's skin.
Like seriously, like Alan Cummings' performance is very odd in X-Men 2, and I love that. It's meant to be this
Alan Cummings.
Ooh, and there's a scene where what is he? He's talking. There's that scene with Mystique in X-Men 2. It's really funny. But then in this, all the comedy with Nightcrawler is shit. It's forced.
It's
all
like it's
yuck.
like terrible teen comedy, which is
Ugh.
like, hey, I don't understand this, and that's it. What is a mole? It's just like, come on. You can do better than that. You did so many better jokes in like Days of Future Past. Like when Wolverine like spikes the waterbed. Like that's so funny. That's such a nice moment because he's like getting used to being in the past in his old body with his bone claws. So like there's so many levels to that sort of joke. With this it's just basic, oh, I don't understand this because I'm a little bit different. It's lazy comedy.
That's like fucking Jodie Whittaker Doctor comedy. Like,
Yeah, it is.
oh,
It
I'm a
is
bit
like,
weird. I'm a bit weird.
am I being a bit weird? Am
Yeah.
I being a bit socially
Like,
awkward?
I remember when I saw people comparing her to like Tom Baker. I was like, "Are you fucking high? Are you
No.
fucking high?"
I've only seen one Tom Baker story, and it was Genesis of the Daleks, but he had so much more complexity to him than that. They're just, oh, am I being a bit weird? Oh, I'm an alien from outer space. I'm being a bit weird, aren't I? It's just
But
like,
that's not
come
even what he's doing. Like the problem,
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
massive difference, and one of the biggest differences is that the Fourth Doctor doesn't know he's being alien. He's not self-aware. That's why it's so funny.
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's being normal, but he's not. Whereas with Jodie, he's just like, oh, I'm a bit quirky. I know that.
A bit quirky, and yes, that is with a Z.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was like, I was like posting on. I've been posting on Twitter a lot because I'm going through all of like Tennant's episodes, and I think I remember. I think I tweeted out like there was. I remember watching 42. I think it was, and I'm just like, that's such a Chibnall line. I can't remember what the line was, but I was just like, that is so Chibnall. Oh, I remember it was when Tennant said like that showed him. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's such a Chibnall. I've got to end this
Yeah.
with a killer quip, and it's just like,
Yeah.
no, that's not funny at all.
It's funny. It's also the same thing. Whenever you watch Series 5, like Matt Smith's Doctor, like in Series 5 is much better than he is in the other ones, but
massively.
but his like presence throughout the episodes, even though I fucking despise some of Victory of the Daleks, but like apart from that, for the most part, throughout all the episodes, he's got this fiery like energy, and the scripts are quite witty. And then you get to the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, and he's just so stale. It's just, it's all Chibnall's bland Jodie Whittaker Doctor bleeding through these actors. It's just horrible.
Yeah, it's like dull comedy is the worst because like it almost empties you out of energy. You're like, oh, really? You're really going there? You're really being that lazy or being that awkward?
Yeah. And I remember I saw someone who there was like a group that were before Series 11 they were watching all of Chibnall's episodes from Doctor Who and Torchwood, and they criticized 42. They said, "Oh, Tennant's like the bland Doctor," and I was like, "No, Chibnall's the bland writer. He's not bringing anything out of this character."
Like,
That's why
Tennant's trying, like Tennant in that episode, because I watched it there 42 yesterday. Tennant is trying his best to really put out some energy to it, and I think because it's Tennant and it's the 10th Doctor, there is an element of that because he's great, but the script still holds him back a bit. It really does. It's a shame because 42 I feel like has a great look to it, and the atmosphere I think is decent, but the writing is
direction
so bland.
is by Graham Harper, who's fucking great.
Yeah,
because Graham Harper's done many of the best Doctor Who stories. Like he did Caves of Androzani and Waters of Mars and Utopia.
Yeah.
It's
and
awesome.
Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel, which is
Army Ghost and Doomsday as well. And he did, I think he did Stolen Earth Journey's End. I think he might have done that as well. I can't remember. Oh no, I think he may have done one of the other ones. I can't remember. Maybe Turn Left. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he did a whole bunch of the best.
Yeah. Because it makes it look good, but it's just like the surface of it, of 42's writing, along with this.
When I watch, whenever I watch 42, I'm like, this is very similar to Utopia and the Waters of Mars aesthetically, but the script could not be more different. They could not.
It could not be more basic for me. It's just like It's just like I'm not going to tell you this up until this, and you're like, oh, why you didn't tell me that? It's like it's laziness. It's such laziness. It's the same because 42 has like two really great scenes in that are
Yeah,
legitimately good, but the rest is like
yeah.
mediocre at
Whereas
best.
you compare that to the Waters of Mars, which I rewatched the other night, and it's literally firing on all cylinders in every single second from start to finish. Like
Yeah,
the
it's
entire
got
hour
so
and
much
entire,
energy. It's got so much energy.
yeah, like
It's
right after the title sequence, I'm pretty sure it's like the second scene, the villain plot starts. It's unbelievable, and it never stops. Like the plot never ends. It's brilliant. Oh, fucking Chibnall. God.
this is the Chibnall movie of the X-Men trilogy or franchise.
Yeah. I think, and honestly, like 42 is one of the reasons why Series 3 is not top for me. Like,
Yeah.
I love Series 3. I absolutely adore it, but like 42 is just such a bland episode, and it really holds it back. It's sad. It's really
Yeah,
sad.
like I had like someone on Twitter after I might have tweeted out about like Family Blood, but I remember they said that their favorite run that made them love Doctor Who was from 42 to Last of the Time. I was like, really? 42 is the one that started that? Really? It's just
Mm.
like it's not really that interesting at all. My biggest complaint about that episode was like the Doctor being infected felt so tacked on and unnecessary. Like I don't see what benefit it had to the story because they already were crashing towards the sun. So why is he being?
The only good thing about it is that Tennant gets to put in a good performance
Yeah,
because he
it's
does a
just
great, crazy
yeah.
personality.
But I don't think it's worth it having that anyway because of like I don't think like it's important because they already sort of knew what they were doing.
Well, I think it's one of those things of like Chris Chibnall just watched Event Horizon and went, "Oh, that would be cool."
Yeah.
But we already got one the previous year with the Impossible Planet and Satan Pit, and it was way better.
It was way better. It's like a similar
In fact,
aesthetic and it's a
in
similar
fact,
sort of style, I would
in
say.
fact, I would even say Impossible Planet Satan Pit's better than Event Horizon. Like, I know fucking sci-fi fans will hate that because Event Horizon's like the holy shrine,
I
but I
like
fucking love
like
Impossible Planet.
Impossible Planet and Saint Pete is great. It's such a different sort of episode to anything else in the RTD era, I think.
Yeah, whereas I feel
It's
like
so
two
unique.
tries to be that, but it doesn't. It doesn't do anything like it. It's just ugh, bloody frustrating Chibnall is, and that's why Series 11 is so bland because all of his episodes
Yeah.
are like that.
All of his episodes are the like downer points of that series. There's only like
Woman
one
Fell to
episode
Earth. Woman
like
Fell to Earth is like, oh, it's like the 11th hour, but 42. The Ghost Monument, oh, it's like the Keys of Marinus, but 42. Arachnids in the UK, it's like the Green Death, but 42. The Saranga Conundrum, it's like fucking, I don't know, uh, I can't even compare it to anything else.
it's
Just the
like
base of
40
the,
it's like 42 but
yeah,
even shitter.
it's like 42, but 42. The Battle of Ranskorav Kolos, it's like it's Journey's End in the Pirate Planet, but 42. Resolution, it's like Dalek, but 42. It's all just fucking bland shit. And Rosa, it's like Vincent and the Doctor, but 42.
I'm always going back and forth for Rosa. I think I'll never say it's a great episode ever because I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are massively overrating that episode because I think it has a lot of characteristic problems, a lot of acting problems, and I think as a concept, while it's basically is like Vincent the Doctor and Vincent Doctor is good, so the concept is fine. I feel like the execution is pretty poor. I don't think Rosa's a good episode. I really don't. And a lot of people are going to shoot on me for that, but I don't care because
Yeah, because they're going to be like,
there's a
oh,
lot of,
you're a
I can,
racist. You're a racist.
but like even just from a writing perspective, it's not well handled. I don't think. I think it's a muddled mess. I think the moments it tries to like teach a lesson with like Ryan and Yaz's conversation in by the bins, I think it's so forced. I think it's so forced, and it's so apparent. I'm just like, you're trying to teach a lesson where you're like, yeah, we get that racism is still a thing today, and this is sort of a lesson, but like, do you have to be this apparent with it? Like, there's so many ways you could have done that better, but because Chibnall is latched onto that story, it's poor. Just like any time it does anything of like we're trying to teach you a lesson about the history of this, and it's like it comes across as so forced. I really don't like Rosa. I really don't.
Mm. Oh well, back to Apocalypse, I suppose. The 42.
It's just like all we're talking about right now is just like a whole bunch of different elements of blandness. So that sort of sums it up.
X-Men Apocalypse, Thor: The Dark World, and 42. There you go.
Mm-hmm. The holy trilogy of blandness.
I'd still watch 42 though. Over those...
I would, just because it has David Tennant and Martha in it, and it's got a nice aesthetic to it.
And Graham Arnold's direction and Murray Gold's music.
Yeah. Like my favorite scene from that episode is when we have the "I'll save you" scene, because I love the way they mute the audio in some shots. I think it's very well done. Very well directed.
She goes out and then he like presses a button and she comes back.
Yeah.
And then he's about to kill with his eyes, but then they drop the oil.
Yeah, all the fuel.
Fucking why, Chibnall? You could literally delete that episode. It wouldn't change a damn thing.
Imagine if he makes the Judoon boring.
He will.
I can guarantee that will be the series opener as well. That'll be the series opener.
Have you seen the other leak?
Yes, I have. Well, I've seen like the photos. Everyone's seen that.
Considering which Classic Who story you've seen recently, like I feel like that's going to be interesting because you have context for that thing that's leaked.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, God.
Anyway, Apocalypse is a boring film.
It is. And Apocalypse is a shit character.
But yeah, like we were talking about Mystique, and I think just overall, I think she's very mischaracterized.
I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is attractive in this film.
I mean, she's like, that's not saying anything new, is it? She's always attractive, but like,
if you could, with age, she ages like a fine wine. Because in First Class, she's more like a teenager, whereas in this, she's like a fully grown woman. And but that's just an actress's appearance. It's got nothing to do with the film. It's just it's a genetic thing. It's also a costume and makeup thing. But like, as we know, costume and makeup is obviously they work really hard, and most of them from what I can see in Hollywood are very talented.
Yeah.
And you get something like Game of Thrones season 8, which has some of the best costume and makeup I've ever seen in television. It's absolutely beautiful, but the story's shit, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how many armors you sewed for the Bells. The Bells is a shit episode of television, so the armor means jack shit, and those people that worked on it worked for nothing. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, like I haven't even watched. The only episode from season 8 of Game of Thrones I've watched is The Long Night.
Yeah,
because I watch with my family. It's just it's all cool. It's all cool aesthetically, but it's so poorly done. And I have no connection with the show because I haven't had the build up of the whole show. But even looking, I'm like, that's kind of dumb. That's a weird decision. Like killing the main villain off with a character that had no connection to it, as far as I'm aware. It's just like,
yep. The way I described it in the recap was it was like if you had 8 seasons of build-up to finding out what the Autons were, and then the Doctor dropped anti-plastic into the pool, and then they went away. That's basically what it is. It's just anti-plastic. That's all it is. Fucking anti-plastic, which works for episode 1, but not episode 70.
Yes.
Episode 70 of the biggest show that's ever come out in the last 10 years. Are you fucking serious? D&D, you idiots.
It's now the biggest disappointment in TV history.
Yeah. And some of that comes down to the fact that the books weren't finished, but like the other half of that comes down to how absolutely awful.
But you could also end the show logically and not shit on the entire thing.
Yeah.
Oh, we just kind of forgot about writing.
It's just so funny when you compare like the behind the scenes from like season 3 to season 7. Like with season 3, it was like they're talking about like the interlocking storylines that lead to the Red Wedding, which is like this big event. And then in season 7, it's just like, God damn it, we gotta have a zombie polar bear.
It's you have a really really bad like season when you have to release behind the scene videos on specific episodes with the directors and writers explaining what the arcs and choices were and reasonings as to why, instead of having the episode itself tell you or show you why these things are the way they are in a good way.
There's a soundbite from the Game of Thrones recap where Jake was talking about that episode, The Last of the Starks, where he said, "This is one of the worst lapses of judgment I've ever seen with a writer. The fact that they would think, surely the audience is that stupid not to think about this, when literally everyone thought about it. Or at least the people that didn't think about it were confused, like my friend was in the reaction. He's like, wait, what? The dragon's down? Oh. Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, but don't worry, she can dodge them all in the next episode.
Oh yeah, and Euron's an Olympic swimmer, so he can just swim all the way from the boat. Conveniently shows up when Jaime's there, like a fucking kraken from the ocean, and says, "I'm going to kill you and fuck Cersei's bum."
Oh, fuck the Queen.
Yeah, yeah. We go from like villains like Littlefinger, who's and Varys, and some of the most interesting characters in like chess players basically, who maneuver pieces around the whole map, and it's just awesome. And you get scenes between them where they're like, they're saying like, if I tell your secrets, you're gonna be dead, but if you tell mine, I'll be dead. Oh, brilliant television. But then you get to season 8, and it's Euron, and he's just like, I'm a fucking pirate, rat boy, and I will fuck your lover's bum. Ha ha ha. And that is the decline of quality.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny how much shade George R. R. Martin throws at them as well. He's just like, haha, this is so shit now. But then all the fans are like, oh, finish the books, please. He's like, oh, I'm old. I feel bad for him. But fingers crossed he can finish the book so we get an actual ending. It's worth our time and not shit like season 8 was. Or Apocalypse, for that matter.
Yeah.
Or Hellbent. Or the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. Yeah, like it can all look good, but if it's not written well enough to a certain extent, it's all worthless drivel if it has good visuals, basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to latch onto. There's nothing to connect to really emotionally tug on your heartstrings.
And unfortunately, I think Rise of Skywalker is going to end up in that pile as well.
It absolutely will.
God. Oh well.
It's going to be. It is going to be an absolutely nothing film. I guarantee it's going to be nothing. At the very least in 2019, with all the disappointments we've had this year, with Game of Thrones, with Dark Phoenix, obviously maybe we'll love it, but fucking I don't think we will. We fucking won't.
With Rise of Skywalker coming out, with all these disappointments, at the very least, we got Avengers Endgame.
Yeah. Which even itself had some writing choices that weren't great. At the very least, on a subjective level, entertaining, very emotional, and was very worth, I think, most of the mistakes. I think you can say, hey, this isn't...
It was worth watching all 23 films.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
Going through Incredible Hulk, Dark World, and Captain Marvel, it was worth it just for Endgame.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like there's nothing taken away. Like even with the objectively flaws with the film, it's still a fun ride. It's still emotional.
It is our generation's version of like going to the cinemas to see Return of the Jedi. Like when people saw that back in the day when it came out, like the Star Wars original trilogy ended, it was this massive thing of this is the end of our big franchise that's defined our generation. For us, that's Avengers Endgame. And it's the highest grossing movie of all time because it's fucking great.
Yeah.
And sadly, everything else couldn't even come close to it this year with its franchise ends.
Yeah.
Not only that, Some of it was absolute garbage, which is why Jake gave it a 0.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the moral of the story is, do not lead your fans on if your ending is not going to be satisfying.
Just keep going until you think of something good, and don't just end it in a shit way just because you want to get to a new franchise.
Well, one of the best ways to do that is to plan the ending first, before you.
Yes, and then
Which is why adaptations work. That's why Lord of the Rings works. That's why Harry Potter works, because the ending is planned in advance by a smart person who knows what they're doing.
you write certain things towards that.
Mm-hmm. I wholeheartedly believe if the A Song of Ice and Fire books would have ended before they finished the show, Game of Thrones could have been like the best TV series ever made. Seriously.
Yeah,
but
it could have,
not.
but it's not
It's
now.
not.
It's not
It's not.
now.
Because the second half of the show is an absolute drivel mess. It just starts up here and goes downhill every season. And it drops to the bottom pit. Yep. Now, do we have any other characters to talk about, or any other side films?
You've got the bird guy with metal wings.
Oh God, he's back from X-Men.
I don't. Is it even the same character?
Is it his father?
No.
I don't know.
No, because the father wanted the guy to get the cure and not have his wings, so it wouldn't be. So like, yeah, you had that guy. You had the girl with the laser sword thing who ran off, and it weirdly stayed on her. I can't remember. I don't remember their names.
Or maybe it was Angel. Oh no, Angel was the wings. Yeah. There was two other sort of female side characters. One was called Psylocke, and one was called Jubilee.
You've got I guess those are the side characters. Yeah. You also had the woman from First Class come back.
Oh yeah, Moira McTaggart. Yeah. Most pointless.
And I love. As soon as she turned up, I remember when they mentioned how Professor X erased her memory. He's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. How meaningless that was. And it's like
memory. And
they do this whole again. They make it seem like they had such a great romance in First Class when they didn't. It was tacked on, if anything, in the end. And then they like.
Oh, it's just like the end of Twice Upon a Time when he remembers Clara.
Clara. My memories are back.
Fucking hell. You know, I hate how the episode nearly didn't happen, because it shouldn't have. If it didn't happen, things would be better.
Yeah. For as good as, like, I enjoyed the concept of the final act the Doctor has was nothing, like, bad. The episode itself was kind of nothing when I look back on it. I was still very emotional about it. But,
like, Stephen Moffat wrote it like in one day with like a hangover. He just
at least we had a great Mark Gatiss performance though.
Oh yeah, well I mean Mark Gatiss is the best part of all the episodes he acts in. That includes that one well. The Lazarus Experiment and the Wedding River Song.
Yeah, as much as I have problems with Lazarus Experiment, Mark Gatiss is great in it, and he's a great actor.
Oh yes.
His whole conversations with the Doctor about life are actually really cool. Are actually really cool and like well done. The performance is great. The whole concept of endless life and like if that's like worth living or if it's a curse. You know, I think the conversations between those two are great.
I think that might be the other episode from Series 3 that slightly holds it down.
Mm-hmm.
But I reckon apart from those two, it's pretty spot on. And even then, those two episodes are utilized to tie into the series arc, and they're done really by Russell T Davies.
Yeah. I would say so. I think Series 3 is just like overall, it's just like it's the most underrated series. I guarantee you, it is the absolutely most underrated.
really like every other episode in it. Really, like even the more unpopular ones like Shakespeare Code and Daleks Manhattan. Like I really like those episodes. And
I
then like
like the concept they're trying to do with the Daleks mainly. I think the New York American setting, I think, is quite a distraction. But everything to do with the Daleks and their sort of concept of they're the last four in extinction, and the sort of do they have to adapt, or is the pure Dalek the main thing for them? I think that whole concept is great. I
I
love what
think
they did with
honestly,
that.
David Tennant's performance in that two-part is unbelievable.
I
He's
love
so
it. I think he's great in it. His conversations with Dalek Sec and the Daleks after they kill Dalek Sec are pretty great, I would say.
mm,
Sure, the episode I think suffers from the American settings. I really think it does hold it down, but the core sort of element of it, which is the Daleks and the Doctor, I think is great, and it's worth watching that and really dissecting
yeah,
that sort of aspect of it.
yeah. And I also, um, as people know, I don't have a problem with like grotesque looking villains. Like I'm fine with the
No,
Slitheen.
like yeah,
I'm fi-
I don't
like the
either.
Zorbalov and also Dalek Sec as well. Like
I think Dalek Sec's design is actually fine. I really think it's fine.
I mean, yeah, it
It's like
is.
it.
Like I get it. It does look like he's got penises hanging out his
Yes,
chin,
but
but like
so do the Daleks, like squids. It looks more like a squid, yes, but they're tentacles and they're small and it's like a humanoid Dalek. So,
yeah, and it's meant to
like,
look gross. It's meant to.
yeah,
Like
it's
that's the
meant to.
point.
It's meant to gross you out. It's not like, oh, that design looks horrible. It's like, no, it's meant to look gross because it's like a mutation of human and Dalek. So,
Yeah.
what do you expect?
Yeah, it's one of the things that like I feel like the Moffat era tried to do less of, and it made me a bit sad because it's one of the things that I love about
Yeah.
classic. It was like they with the designs, they're like, oh, let's try and make looking something as fucking disgusting as possible, and I appreciate that kind of
This is
creativity.
just how I sum up the two eras of like modern Who. It's like over the top nonsense plot concepts or character development.
Yeah.
Which one would I rather have? I'd
Well,
rather
I
have
mean,
the character development.
there are over the top elements to RTD, but they are surface
But
level.
they're
Like they are.
surrounded by good character development
Yeah.
and writing, which amplifies it to make it even
Well,
better with the sort
I
of
mean,
cool
I think
plots.
there's more value in an over the top looking monster design than there is an over the top pointless plot twist
Drivel.
script that means fuck all.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just like each. The thing is the thing, like with the whole argument of, oh, they just keep bringing back the Daleks, for example, and just do the same plot over again.
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
again, I will say, I think I mentioned to you a while ago about how with New Earth, like, I really don't like the marketing around the episode.
mhm.
It's the same thing with Daleks in Manhattan. I really don't like how it's marketed in the trailers, and I don't like the fact that the name of it is Daleks in Manhattan. That ruins the
Oh
twist.
yeah, it does. It does. It
But
ruins it.
but if you watch it as a piece of art, don't pay attention to any of the marketing. It's actually much better than people say it is.
Mhm.
As an
Yeah,
individual standalone story, only contained within the arc of the Cult of Skaro, I think it's actually very good. It's
yeah.
just there are elements about it
I
that are
think the Cult of Skara like trilogy, I think is really cool. You
yeah
have like Armies of Ghosts and Doomsday, then you've got Daleks in Manhattan and
yeah
I can't speak. But yeah, that story, and then you have Journey's End, Stolen Earth with Dalek Khan. I think is a very cool sort of journey for that
yeah.
sort of set of
I just
Daleks.
think that Daleks in Manhattan probably gets the butt of it because it's the weakest of the three.
Yeah,
Um, just like it's kind of like how Age of Ultron is way less interesting than the other Avengers films, and it's the same thing with Daleks Manhattan. It's like
mhm,
it's still good, but it's just not quite as good as the finales are.
yeah, yeah. Like the whole thing. So the argument I think a lot of people have with RTD Zero is that every time they bring back the Daleks, it's the same thing. But I would argue that, yeah, I think in grounded concept because it's the Daleks, but and their one thing is to kill everything and have Daleks be supreme. what it does is that it brings a brand new either element or a new character into it to shake things up and bring something new to the table. So you have Dalek with the lone Dalek. You've got then Army of Ghosts and Doomsday.
Dalek is just perfect, the first
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
And then you got Babel finding the ways where the twist of them coming back is so brilliant because of Dalek.
Yeah, and then you've got the Emperor Dalek, which is something new. The sort of the gods of the Daleks. Then you have Army of Ghosts and Doomsday with the Cult of Skaro, where they are imaginative.
And also their feud with the Cybermen, which is like a match made in heaven for fans.
Then you've got Daleks in Manhattan with the concept of evolving into something new, and then they killing it because of the pure Dalek, how they're pure Daleks, how they're killing that into the dirt. Then you've got Journey's End and Stolen Earth, where you've got Davros to add to the mix, where he brings something different. He's like his sort of mad demeanor is something different that we haven't seen before in New Who. So I agree that
caps it off, and that caps it off in such a satisfying way. And then you may be forgetting there's one more, the Waters of Mars, which brilliantly reuses the Daleks to reference it from Journey's End, because it makes the episodes feel important, because Journey's End affects the Waters of Mars, affects Adelaide as a character, and it's so good. The fact that she loses her parents in the war, and the fact that, because Stolen Earth, Journey's End, like, you could be like, oh yeah, this is a fun, like, Avengers like sort of Doctor story, but the fact that Adelaide lost her parents in that war means there were consequences, which is something that Moffat does not do, because he doesn't fucking care about consequences.
Yeah. So, I, to an extent, agree with the soul. They're brought back every season to up the stakes. And yes, that is true. But what they do is that they add something new to mix it up and have a new element into it, a new concept into it to change the dynamics. And that is interesting and it's well done. So it's not the same thing every time. There's a new element to it, because the Daleks as a concept are the same each time, but they add something different to make it interesting and make it more, there's a new dynamic to it.
And then as soon as you get to the Moffat era, the Daleks fall off a fucking cliff and die. And
they're the same every time. The Daleks in the Moffat era are the same every time, apart from Rusty, which was still a thing. Like in Dalek, the same sort of thing. With like, you would be a good Dalek.
Well, the one time that he did try something new was Victory of the Daleks, but that was terrible because the design was terrible and it was stupid.
Yeah, but like the good concept from that episode is done in like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
so like,
it goes from being like Matt Smith channeling Eccleston to a jammy Dodger.
Yeah, so it's like you take the first half, which is actually fine, and actually I think the concept is pretty cool, but then you've got the Power Ranger Daleks, which completely ruin the episode, and the whole Matt Smith's Doctor changing in the second half is so stupid.
Becomes a mess. It becomes an absolute mess in the end.
All right, it's a damning Domager, but I was promised tea. It's like, come on. When he asked you for tea, you were losing your goddamn mind because of the Daleks.
Mark Gatiss has this just habit of wanting the Doctor to be a clown. Like in The Idiot's Lantern, David Tennant's Doctor feels like Series 7 Matt Smith from like Hyde or something. Like I remember when I re-watched it with Jake in January for the video, for the channel. I remember watching Idiot's Lantern when they storm into the house and like, hi! Like, it reminded me of Hyde, like, with Matt Smith and Clara.
Oh, God. It was not good.
It's just so out of place. Like, it doesn't make sense. All the subtext
and I'm not listening!
And, like, all the subtext is gone. It's just weird. It's such a weird episode.
Yeah. It's not good. It's probably... Honestly, it is probably the worst of that series, tied with Fear. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would. It's hard to choose between them because I think Idiot's Lantern gets the characters worse, but Fear Her is such a fucking mess, and it's really plotting.
It's got poor acting. The concept is wasted. It's over the top. It's silly in a really annoying way, and it's like, what a shit way to cap off the whole series to go into the finale with that. It's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
The only thing I can say is like Fear Her, like the Doctor and Rose are actually likable, whereas in Idiot's Lantern they're not. And Fear Her
Oh,
also
they're
has some,
not likable at all.
and then in and Fear Her has a lot of good like meme moments as well, like when he's the guy's fixing the road, and then like, and there's also the bit where
You to the council. That was probably my favourite part of the episode because it was
yeah.
actually legitimately funny because he was like, not a cancel spaceship, I'm afraid. It's like, that's actually funny. That's quite funny joke because of
Yeah.
how he is. But other
I
than
think
that, it's
I
brilliant.
remember on like the original series 2 box set, like Russell T Davies threw shade at some of the episodes because like obviously he was producing it, but he was producing it with a fucking like rush, and he said that there is a few episodes in series 2. I would almost guarantee that Idiot Lantern and Fear Her are two of them that he had in mind when he mentioned this. That he is absolutely thankful that of the main cast, David Tennant and Billy Piper, because without them, those episodes would have nothing interesting about them at all. Like you look at Fear Her, like imagine that episode without those two actors. It would be
Yeah.
it would just be nothing. It would be absolutely
There would
nothing.
be nothing. There would be nothing to it that I would even care about.
Yeah, because at least they're charismatic.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure, they're a bit mischaracterized, but their actors are still they're actors, and it's still good acting to
they're
an
very
extent.
sort of like they're quite friendly. I would say in
Mhm.
Fear Her, silly
Yeah.
but very friendly.
Yeah,
David Tennant
silly.
on
But,
bucket
yeah.
loads of cocaine, but that's enjoyable at least.
Yeah.
Um, But then Idiot's Lantern, fuck, I don't understand where that came from. Like,
Mm.
how did you make the Doctor and Rose so unlikable like that quickly?
Yeah. It's pretty much instant. It's like the instant after the credits roll, it's like
John
get me out
Marino.
of this. Yeah, get me out of this story.
Yeah, and it almost makes me resent that more than Fear Her, just because it messes with the characters.
Yeah, especially after the end of Age of Steel,
Yeah, which was
which for
great.
like
It was
yeah,
great.
like that ending legitimately like the
The
end of
sub,
Age of
I
Steel.
love the subtext between the Doctor, Rose, and Mickey in that story. I love the subtext. It's just an Idiot's Lantern. It's fucking gone. There's none of it. Um, And it's weird because like Impossible Planet Satan Pit, it's great.
It's fantastic. It's great. Love it.
So, yeah.
And it's great because the side characters have a purpose and are important in every other story, like Mothia, and the side characters are like
Oh, the
nothing.
fucking flesh two parter, they're all just bad.
Yeah, I don't care about.
Ugh.
I like the father, but
Daddy,
that's it.
Daddy. I remember rewatching Series 6 and how many fucking daddy storylines there are. Like Curse of the Black Spot has one, Flesh Two Part
Oh
has
god, it
Night,
does.
Night
Yeah.
Terrors has one, and as does Closing Time as well.
Oh god, it does. Oh god, that's such a like. You only do that kind of stuff once in a series. Don't do
You
it
got
4
and
times.
you could even include like River Song and Rory as well in that.
Yeah. It's the father. It's the
Even
daddy
though
special series.
even though at absolutely no point do I feel any connection between Rory and River Song at all.
I I don't at all. They do not feel like that father and daughter at all. Even though I get it that they're both adults when they talk to each other, but it's like there's even post when they find out there's nothing like that at all. It's just all bad writing and poorly done, and I don't get why people like it.
Yeah. Oh, well, how many tangents is that now? We've probably talked more about Doctor Who on this one there. We have X.
Oh yeah, we have absolutely.
Yeah. Fuck Series 6. Fuck Chris
Mhm.
Chibnall. Russell T Davies #1.
And fuck Silver Nemesis.
Oh yes, and fuck Idiot's Lantern.
Just
And the
all
amazing,
the objectively bad episodes. Just fuck them.
yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Hellbent, Captain Marvel, Warriors of the
Game of
Deep,
Thrones.
Game of
Season
Thrones
8.
season 8, yeah, and others.
And X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, sure, why not? And X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh. Even with it no longer existing in the continuity, it still fucks up a lot of things because why are things different when they don't correlate, they don't connect to each other.
Mm.
I don't remember what character we were on. We were on like this
I
side.
don't
Villains,
we're all Moira McTaggart, but who fucking cares?
oh yeah. She's
Quick,
brought back for no real reason.
okay,
at
so
all.
I will say about Quicksilver, he does get a cool slow motion scene.
Oh yeah, the slow motion scene is great. Not as great as the first one, but I still like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's great. But then after that, you've got the whole he's his father thing, but he doesn't say it. But it's not going to go anywhere, is it? Because Dark Phoenix is a prequel, or is it
Dark Phoenix? No, Dark Phoenix would absolutely be after this.
Oh, okay.
So, like, but I don't even. I doubt they will even explore it at all. I really don't think they will. If they do, I'll be shocked. Oh, there is actually one other thing that is actually fun in this film, and it's only for a bit. It's when Logan returns as a cameo.
Yeah.
It's fun for the action, but then that's it.
Again, like when I saw him and Jean Grey together as characters, I was like, "There's no
I completely
chemistry."
forgot about their romance. I forgot about their romance. As you know, even though it was decently done in like, the Wolverine, I still completely forgot that they had a romance, and it doesn't feel right when it's Hugh Jackman with a different casted Jean Grey.
And that's the thing is like. The thing is, Hugh Jackman had like fiery chemistry with the other actress. I can't remember what's her name again. The one who plays Jean Grey in the original.
Original.
Jean Grey. I should know her because she's got a familiar face. Famke Janssen. That's right. It's probably why, because she's got a slightly foreign name, but. She had very good chemistry with Hugh Jackman on screen, even when the writing was bad. Whereas Sophie Turner, nope. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It just doesn't even feel like the same character. No. But yeah, I suppose Logan's cameo was good.
It was fun for the action, but it was like, it reminds me of X-Men 2, and it's like, oh.
But it was nowhere near as cool as his cameos in First Class and Deadpool.
No. Yeah. It just feels weird to go from like Days of the Future Past and then go to this. Be like, oh yeah.
It's just a weird part in this timeline. It's quite awkward.
As soon as they walked in the room and it was the massive box, I was like, I guarantee it'll be Logan.
It's so weird because it's suggesting that it's leading into X-Men 1, but that's not what happens because the timeline's been reset. So
we don't even know how they find Logan at all. Even though I don't think it's necessary. We just don't know where he goes from here, and it's not going to explore because Logan is next. So many things they never explore because it's wasteful potential, and they don't want to do any of that work.
And I imagine in Logan they wouldn't want to explore it because they're like, why would we want to explore something that doesn't need to be explored because it's shit? Why don't we just focus on doing our own thing?
Yeah.
I can't fucking wait to watch Logan after this shit. I can't wait.
We need like just something to get a grab of and just take us on a ride.
Like Deadpool. Deadpool was like that.
Yeah, like Deadpool.
It was fucking great, and it came right before this piece of shit.
Yeah.
How did they come out like the same year? Like, how the fuck did that happen?
Oh my god, yeah, they came out both in 2016, didn't they?
Yep.
Jesus
and they could be more different. Deadpool's like extremely engaging, entertaining, brilliant film. This is boring, stagnant.
Yeah. You can only imagine like if Deadpool came out a year later, then they would have made fun of this film without a doubt. And as they should have, because man oh man, there's so much you could fucking pick apart.
Oh yeah. We could do, but we've referenced other things because that's more fun.
Exactly. Yeah, it's way more fun because there's actually depth to some of the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah, so we had a cameo from William Stryker. I don't know why. We just did.
He just keeps popping up for no reason, even though he wasn't that great in X-Men 2.
No, he wasn't.
He wasn't even a good villain. Even if the film you could say is good, I wouldn't say it was. But I know people still like it, but even if you do, he's not even the best part about it. He's one of the things I don't like about it. So like, I don't understand why he keeps getting brought up.
Weirdly, his best appearance is probably Origins. Weirdly,
Yeah, because he was actually involved with the story and it developed Logan, but it still wasn't good. It just wasn't good. Stop
uh,
bringing back. I think this hopefully will be the last appearance of him because I don't see him in Deadpool 2. I don't see him
I
appearing in
don't see the
Logan.
point. I don't see the point of him being in
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Why?
yeah. It's no point.
Um, we also had Stan Lee's cameo, which was fucking lazy. It just
I'm looking in the sky at the missiles.
and then zoomed up on his face, be
He
like,
hasn't
"Look,
been
it's
he
Stan
hasn't
Lee."
been in these films for ages, and that was his return. Like, when was the last time he was in an X-Men film? Was it like X-Men 3 maybe?
Yeah.
Because it's been a long time.
Was he in Deadpool?
No. Oh no, he was in Deadpool, sorry. He was in Deadpool. Remember, he was in the dance club.
Oh yeah, that was fucking great.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, but
beautiful.
like in terms of the actual X-Men films, he hasn't been in like any of them, excluding Deadpool, apart
Yeah.
from like 3 was his last appearance before this
The
one.
one thing that I can say about this though, reading Wikipedia is he was with his wife in that scene, Joan B.
Mm,
Lee.
yeah.
But and apparently this was her last appearance in a film before her death the following year.
Mm, mm,
Um, so yeah, rest in peace to that, both of them.
yeah.
But from a creative standpoint, compare this to Deadpool, the creativity scale is on absolute opposite ends.
Like he's just looking at the sky at the missiles that are being launched. So
And you know, you were talking about Darkworld, like it's just like the fucking retirement home joke from Darkworld, where like
yeah.
Stanley's there. It's
Can
like,
I get my shoes back?
whereas like Deadpool's one's like Ragnarok, you know, when he cuts Thor's hair, he's like, "Yeah, come here." Like it's really funny. Just like
Yeah. So it's something cool being creative with details.
yeah. Ah.
I don't know who else is in this
Even
film.
Captain Marvel has a good Stanley cameo, and that film's
Yeah,
terrible.
because it's honoring all his good work that he's done throughout the decades. It was the best part about Captain Marvel, to be honest.
Mm, yeah. Pretty sure his cameo was one of your favorite parts about Hulk 2003 as well, aside from Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah. Though I can't remember exactly what his cameo was.
He appears with the original Hulk, and he's like a security guard.
Oh yeah, that was cool. Yeah, that was cool.
I love that. Oh,
Mm.
but it definitely did distract from the film because it's like, but Bruce Banner's here, but he's different to that one. It's like, oh. Yeah, it was it was a weird tonal shift because it was like it's a very like grey film, I suppose you could say. It's just very sort of ooh, but then you get the Stan Lee cameo. It's like, oh, this is fun. Oh wait, we're not supposed to be having fun. It's supposed to be psychodrama. But anyway, David Banner. That'll make you angry. No comment. Should we move on to the writing, direction, and music?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, so let's have a look. It looks like all the writers were the same ones, which is surprising.
It's very surprising because of how poorly handled this was compared to Days of Future Past, and that was a goddamn time travel film.
Yeah, I will say, so Bryan Singer, Simon Kinberg, I'm pretty sure they were on Days of Future Past.
Mm.
Yes, I'm correct about that. But Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris, let's have a look at them. They weren't. They were on X-Men 2. But they weren't on Days of
Which is apparently the best of the 3, apparently. Even though I thought it was just fine.
That explains why it's so long.
Mm. Longer the better, people say.
Yeah, so I thought the also, just thinking about that actually, I'm just gonna check out Days of Future Past and see what the difference is and see which ones were on that weren't on this. Jane Goldman, Matthew Vaughn. Okay. So obviously if you wanna find out who's talented and who's not. Jane Goldman and Matthew Vaughn were on Days of Future Past, and they weren't on this. So,
Shocking.
so
It's
obviously,
so unnoticeable.
there is a difference there.
Yeah.
This film has 4 producers. How does it have
Yeah,
4?
I remember the credits. It said it was like 4 producers. It was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's more producers than writers. It's weird. But yeah, the writing was very sloppy. And just
Oh, it was. I think dialogue was probably one of the worst parts about it. Like the sort of over the top cheesiness was like on full force, and was just totally unbelievable.
oh god, we didn't even talk about Beast. I forgot to mention Beast.
Oh god.
He's
But
not
that's
even.
the thing.
He's
That's
not
the
even
thing about
on,
this film.
He's not even on it. Oh no, he is.
No.
I just went right past him because he's only got one line of fucking explanation.
It's just like
Hank
he's just
acts as a
there.
teacher in X's school and he builds inventions for troubled students. That's all it says about him.
Oh god.
And if a
Like,
storm,
he's just
if a
there.
storm, it's a young mutant orphan who can control weather. Great.
God, this film was garbage. The more and more I'm like thinking about it and how this film went down, it's just like, God, this was so misguided. It's such a shame. It's such a shame because they were actually on a good run as of late, and then this fucking happens.
Pretty much. I mean, at first I was thinking maybe me not wanting to watch it comes from a lack of entertainment, which is a more surface level thing. But as I think about it, I think it's actually because it's not very good.
Yeah. Yeah, but like Hank doesn't do anything really in the film at all. Like, I don't remember a single scene he has that benefits the plot, benefits the story, and changes and develops characters.
Oh,
You
oh
know, all
dear.
that basic stuff.
We were mentioning about the actor from Deadpool who got into like scandals, right?
Mm.
I'm just looking up Bryan Singer, who
Yeah,
did X-Men 1 and 2, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse, the direction.
yeah.
And apparently, he's been in multiple abuse allegations
Ah, fantastic.
with minors.
Ugh, Jesus.
So yeah, that's pretty disgusting.
Well, we don't expect him to be in Dark Phoenix anytime soon, then.
Well, he is the uncredited producer for it, apparently. But
Oh,
he,
Ben, yeah.
but he was removed from it because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So I assume so, yeah.
That's pretty fucked up.
Yes.
Just get some help, you pedophile. But the direction of the film, it looked pretty, but it wasn't. The story wasn't interesting enough for me to care about it. That's the problem.
I thought that the direction was colorful but dull at the same time.
Yes.
I don't know why.
That's a good point.
I don't know why it felt so dull.
It's very like it felt like a Chibnall episode of Doctor Who where it's very pretty and has like high definition to it, but the actual what's within the frame
like this is a very HD film. I feel like that's.
But the thing is, like,
now.
if you like, it's like when you're watching a fucking 4K TV fish tank at the TV store. Like, yes, it's pretty high quality, but you're not going to sit there and watch it all day. It's a fucking fish tank. It's boring.
Yeah, it's colorful but dull at the same time, and that doesn't equate to good content.
Which I think is a shame because it's a misuse of your resources.
Yeah.
And just like X-Men 3, a waste of money. Big waste of money. Very disappointed in the direction, mainly because in Days of Future Past it was actually very good and it was the same director.
It was great. It was great in Days of Future Past. This one felt so dull. But I get at the same time that equates to the writing, it equates to the characters, and equates to the whole plot itself. So it's all mixtures of the whole thing. They
It's
give you that
quite
feel.
possible that Fox may have pressured them to into this, and that's why it feels labored.
Yeah,
Because I wouldn't be surprised if this is a studio film, like one
feels
that was
like it.
demanded. Whereas Days of Future Past felt like it had a lot of passion behind it. This
Yeah.
doesn't. It's like this film is bare minimum, you know?
Mm.
Ah, fucking Christ. Ah. Um, I think the thing about this series is like it's not overall terrible. It's just so misused.
Nah,
It
yeah.
misuses great actors and great
Wasted potential, I think it
great
sums
comic
up the
book
X-Men
characters and great
franchise.
actors. And the only time it actually works is when it's focused, which is very few
Yeah.
and far between.
Mm. That like this franchise has gems. It really does. It has films that are so well done and are fun and interesting and emotional, but as a whole, it is wasted opportunities, it's wasted potential, wasted characters, wasted stories, and it's just I wouldn't say not worth watching it. It's just not high quality on a
Mm.
consistent basis.
Like imagine if this series when it was coming out, maybe not at the time that it came out, but let's say, for example, in an ultimate situation, you could build the X-Men franchise similar to the MCU, and like with like Phase One, you have like First Class, The Wolverine, Deadpool, and then you have an X-Men film. It would have just worked better, wouldn't it?
Mm. Like, it's that this like talking about right now. This is like an 18-year franchise, 18, 19 years, and it only has given us, in terms of just regular perception or reputation, I would say like four films that people really like in terms of high quality. There are one that I think on a good day you could enjoy. The rest is a bunch of drivel and not worth your time.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I've got to say something about the music of this film. Oh boy, do I have something to say.
I
So
don't remember it.
I was very disappointed because it was the same one as Days of Future Past. It was John
Hmm.
Ottman, and I thought he did a really good job in Days of Future Past. But this film has very forced music. It has there's one scene in particular that's playing like this heavy metal sound, but it's so forced and horrible and interrupts the scene. And again, similar to the direction and the writing, I feel like it's the studio. It's the studio saying you have to make this film because money. And it feels labored
Yeah.
and misused and misguided and misplaced. And it's such a shame.
Yeah, the only thing right now I sort of recognize as music is the X-Men theme, and that's it. And I can't remember any other pieces of score that are even remotely memorable.
You know what's funny? This is like the in terms of like main films, like the sort of big team up films. This is what the fifth or sixth X Men film in the franchise
Mm.
that's an actual X Men film. I still can't tell you what the theme is. I don't remember it.
It's like da, 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 like that. It's just like it's almost like a jingle thing, you know.
Like a
Every
ringtone.
yeah, like in the lot in Days of Future Past and this film, when it has the Fox logo come up at the end of it, it comes up with like the sort of main riff of the X-Men theme, which I
Right.
think is pretty cool. So it's like sort of recognizable, but yeah, that's the only thing of like score I recognize.
Yeah. See, I don't even like remember that because it's just not. It's
It's
just
pretty. I will say it's pretty generic, but I think just it's a nice little listen when you
yeah.
listen to it. It's like, oh, that's cool, but it's
Whereas
nothing
like
like that really sticks with you.
you watch Spider-Man 1 and you can like sing the entire Danny Elfman theme just hearing it once
I
because it's
can,
so
I
memorable.
could, I can think and listen to like the entire score of the whole film and be
Yeah.
like, I remember that track. I remember this scene with that track. I remember this.
Oh
Or that
yeah.
was well implemented into the film. Just
There's
like,
episodes of Doctor Who like that as well, like Heaven Sent.
oh yeah. hmm I can like think of like so many
Bad
different
Wolf Parting
scores
of the Ways as well.
of the RTD era. I
Did
think
you listen to
especially has
that, by
so
the
many
way, the one
different
I sent
scores.
you?
Yes, I did. I listened to it the whole thing, and it's so good.
Oh, so
Such a
good.
good score.
Puts my arms, makes my arms stand up. But I won't mention that on this podcast now because it'll be brought up at some point down the line, hopefully,
Yeah.
when it's applicable. But yes, that fucking unreleased score on YouTube of that story is just stupendously atmospheric,
Yeah. It's
and it's
really good.
all done on his fucking computer.
Yeah.
But yeah, X-Men Apocalypse. Should we go to the trivia?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what anything interesting can come from the trivia with this film, but hey, you never know.
Mm. But yeah, I think honestly that's one of the reasons why Jake gave both those episodes 10 out of 10 is because of the score, because he loves
Yeah.
music.
Score and music can be such an important thing with any like TV show or film. It really can. Like Murray Gold is just a genius. He
Yeah.
really is.
Like the song that the part of it that plays when the Doctor sees the Beowulf logo is so fucking good. And the part when like all throughout series 1 with the Beowulf theme playing with like the woman singing, and then because when it leads to the very end of the Parting of the Ways, when that version of the song plays, it's so satisfying because it's like each time it's referenced in the series, it's very mysterious, but when it plays at the very end, it's in full force, and it's this beautiful chorus of wonderful vocals. And
yeah, it's like
I just remember being 10 years old, hearing that soundtrack and being like, that's the first time I've ever watched like a movie or TV show noticing the soundtrack. Like Murray Gold is that powerful.
Yeah.
And that soundtrack,
that's like,
I think the reason why I love that soundtrack so much is because it represents when I fell in love with the show.
Yeah, probably Murray Gold is probably like my favorite composer, and I think that says a lot considering it's on a goddamn TV show. So like,
and like series 1, he did all on his computer sampled. It's
like
fucking...
I would say like for like the lot of like modern Who, I think Murray Gold is just as important as the Doctor. I would say for the concept of the whole show. I would say I really would argue that because I think what he does for a lot of scenes. To the whole point of the music is to sort of guide you through the emotions, and it does sort of influence you, but it does it in such a satisfying grand way.
I honestly think music and score is one of the most overlooked things about Doctor Who in general, because even in classic Who, the atmospheric score carries the episodes and makes them feel so much more lively. Like like the Daleks, for example. The fucking score for that is unsettling as hell. Like the Moon Base as well, as is Tomb of the Cybermen, as is a lot of 60s stories. The score is beautiful, and a lot of people don't even recognize it because it's so in the background.
Mm-hmm. Like every scene of like, I think it's just especially RTD's era, whenever there's like a memorable piece of music, I'm just like, oh, I just love listening to the music to whatever scene. Like The Dream of a Normal Death, I think, for example, because I've just watched the Family of Blood 2-part, that piece of music is probably, I think, one of the more underrated ones because it comes up there and then it comes up again in Journey's End. And I love how both ways they're implemented like are very similar but very different at the same time. But it's the same track.
Honestly, Series 3 might have the best soundtrack that Murray Gold ever did.
I would actually, I would probably agree with that.
Yeah,
I think
it's got Bo, it's got Abide With Me, it's got Martha's theme, it's got All the Strange Creatures, it's got the Blink Suite, The Dream of a Normal Death, Only Martha Knows. It's got Donna's theme as well from The Runaway Bride. It's got the what's it called? The the Shakespeare Code one. What's it called again? It's called the
I can't remember.
it. You know the one, right? You know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That one's great. And then you've also got the famous, what's it called, the Devil in Me from Daleks in Manhattan. Like that's a classic.
Mm-hmm.
You've got also got the Masters theme as well, the Master of Inglorious, and also This Is Gallifrey.
Yep.
It's fucking insane.
But nah, Murray Gold is overrated and too bombastic.
Treading on sacred ground.
Yeah. Just like there would be like almost half of the iconic scenes there would be if Murray Gold was not the composer of modern.
It's called the Carrionite Swarm.
Oh yeah. Carrionite. God, the faces and the accents that those witches have is so weird. It's so like it's probably like it's
classic RTD era. Like there's so many handy villains in RTD era.
Yeah.
Like the Slovene, like especially the main one.
I love the Slovene.
My phone.
I love the Slovene though. I really do. I think they're great.
Victory should be naked.
I need to be naked. Yes. Your body is magnificent.
I thought I was Prime Minister now. I was having so much fun.
Get a perspective, woman.
Oh, God. That two-parter is so
incredibly underrated.
That two-parter is so underrated. Mm-hmm. Why do people not like it? It's so funny.
Oh, but they fart a lot.
But it's so funny. It's like, come on.
They don't even like fart in part 2. Even like, I think they only fart like once, and that's it.
Oh, what a shame! It's such a great story, but people don't like it because it's got some farting. Like, are you fucking serious?
Oh, it's so fine. It's like, yeah, sometimes that can be used for like bad comedy, and I agree, but the other elements of that episode are great, and you just don't notice it because fighting aliens.
Yeah, and like it's fucking hilarious. Like these politicians that like are aliens dressed inside these fat fucking skins. Like, you know, there's so much to it. Like it's quite creative, I think, even if it is childish. Like it's creative. And then the fart happens, and then you get over it because the next scene's different.
And also, they kill someone right after.
Yeah, which makes it even more scary because they're
then they wear his skin
because they're farting around. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Because they're in so much power that they can fart and laugh about it. Because they're so brilliant at taking over this country with the diversion as well. The fact that they sent a fake spaceship with a slave pig in it. Oh, Russell T Davies is a genius. And why don't
but he ruined Doctor Who. He ruined it even though it was popular. No, he ruined it.
He fucking rose like a phoenix and made it better.
He fucking the show wouldn't be alive still right now if it wasn't for Russell T Davies. It just wouldn't. You can argue like, Sue's 4 is so overhyped and it's just event television. It's like, and he treats the Martha like shit. David Tennant's he's ignorant and he's selfish. It's like, I mean, no, but also the show
you're fucking ignorant if you think that Aliens of London's only about farting. Like, you're a fucking idiot if you just think that's all it is. There's so much more to that story than just that.
Yeah. And I love how people are like,
nitpicky Jake Hanley, like Jake is on the channel. Like how nitpicky he is. He's very fussy about his television. And he understands Aliens of London because he's clever.
Mm-hmm. And I also love how it's like, but the 10th Doctor is selfish and he doesn't want to die. He's like, I guess then he didn't stand up to a Dalek in front of everyone in Hooverville and almost die for it. No, I guess that doesn't exist. It's like I watched that and it was like, he totally like says for them to kill him.
You know what? I feel like it's such a hypocritical thing to say because like it's funny because the people that say that the 10th Doctor is shit to Martha are usually like Classic Who fans, and then you get the opposite. The people that like are fucking dumb New Who fans tend to say that the first Doctor's only like a grumpy old man. Like it's the
He's
same
not
fucking thing.
though. He's not.
Neither is true because it's a fucking character arc and it makes sense. It's not just one trait.
It's like for me, right? It just feels like that when it comes to Doctor Who fans. It feels like that they treat the show differently for other things, like character arcs. Like the Doctor can't change as he goes within his same incarnation. He can't have a different view, even though he's a different incarnation. It's so weird because I feel like, and I do treat the show differently than everybody else because I think it's a very unique show. But core writing still should exist. Character arcs and character progression should still be a thing. It shouldn't just be that's the Doctor. He stays like that. He needs to stay in line with that. But you don't change the Doctor when you're off season. You don't change it from season 8 and then change him to series 9 with no through line.
It's like, yeah, between series, it felt like he actually regenerated.
Yeah. You change him during the series, you know, how writing works, not off camera. Fucking Moffat. And it's the same with Clara. She's different from series 7 and she's different in series 8. But you don't give her an arc, which she changes during the season. You change her during the 50th for some fucking reason and give her a new job. She never fucking talked about.
I don't understand, like, how Moffat somehow managed to think, I'm going to have Clara have a job at Coal Hill School because it's the 50th anniversary, but didn't think, oh, why don't we have Ian Chesterton, who is still fucking alive, the actor is still alive, he's from the very first episode of Doctor Who, 50th anniversary, could have easily had him in it for like one scene, he's getting old, and everyone loves him, because Ian Chesterton's a great character.
Yeah.
And so he just thought, I'm going to give Clara a job there. What? What?
You know what would have been fucking great? Just like have the Doctor and Clara just talk in like the teacher's office, but then you have Ian walk in and you just play some nice emotional Murray Gold music, and you have Matt Smith just staring at him just emotionally. Sure, it's fan service, but it makes sense.
It's the fucking 50th anniversary. It's the fucking 50th anniversary. What? When else would you do fan service? Oh, we'll do it in series 9. Ugh. But we'll be subversive. Like that would have been unservice. You will see, like, oh, if you watch this series, you get the Daleks and Gallifrey and Zygons, but you won't get it because we'll throw it out.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, trivia. We haven't even got into the first bit of trivia.
Yep. Because Apocalypse is that boring. Yeah. Patrick Stewart jokingly informed Bryan Singer that he would be willing to play Mystique. Should Jennifer Lawrence start playing up, he said, I am so ready to be naked, painted blue, and the world is ready for it too.
Was that James McCoy, was that, did you say?
No, Patrick Stewart said that.
Oh, Patrick Stewart. Oh, right. I was... Oh, that's so funny. I love it.
Maybe he saw Hugh Jackman in Days of Future Past naked and he said, I want some of that. That's cool. Fucking maybe in Dark Phoenix Magneto's naked. Oh well. This film wouldn't have anything that interesting, would it? No. I was just thinking like the other day about like what's one thing that could actually make series 12 interesting, because it's most likely going to be fucking boring. And I was thinking like what if they like went with the whole like Dr. Yaz ship and they had like a fucking full-on sex scene. With like Dr. Yaz and Rose Tyler.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, you could tell it'd be totally outplaced because there's only one episode in series 11 that hints at them having a relationship, but they don't even go forward with that. I fucking hate fake ships. I just hate them. I just really do. Because it's taking something that isn't there and saying, oh no, but it is there if you look, because I made up bullshit.
Mm.
I just hate it. But yeah, have Patrick Stewart as Mystique. That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
the fucking shipping between Capaldi and Clara is really weird.
God, it makes no. It's like it's that is the most nothing's there, but I'm gonna make up bullshit for it. Like, there's a
Yeah.
fucking line in his first episode about it, and
I'm
they
not
say,
your
"I'm not
boyfriend,
your
Clara.
boyfriend." So how could you miss that? How could you miss that? It's like, stop making up fucking bullshit about
Yeah,
fake shit.
I'm not your boyfriend, but I'm gonna save you from death, and not my girlfriend, and not my wife, and not Adric, who I died thinking I was gonna be punished for not saving, or not Katerina, who got fucking murdered innocently. Oh, I'll just save Clara because she's the only one that matters.
All the people I threw into an acid bath.
Oh dear, no, he didn't regret that. Let's be honest.
Yeah, forgive me if I don't join you.
Yes, he should have said that to Clara and the Raven hitter.
Mm-hmm. Ah, Clara, you'll forgive me if I don't join you. I need to go see the Time Lords. And then make sure they're all wasted in the next in 2 stories time.
God. It's like Moffat is Sam Raimi and Avi Arad at the same time.
Yeah, fan service, but no, but it's shit fan service. Too much elements, all of it. Give it all, but it's all shit.
Oh, well, you've been subverted. Davros opens his eyes even though he doesn't have eyes.
Oh, but the Dalek says mercy, but even though the Dalek said mercy
Why?
in series 5.
What? Wait, why? Moffat, why do you think Davros has the eye on his head? For decoration? Are you...
For decoration.
not understand one thing about this character, you idiot.
But I never watched Genesis. I never watched it.
Oh, it's from the 70s. Anything before Kinder is trash. It's funny because like his favorite era is like the Davison era, but it's like the worst era of Classic Who.
It is. And I haven't even watched it all, and I'm like, yeah.
So there are some great episodes in it, like Earthshock,
Oh, yeah.
for example.
Yeah. Earthshock is really good.
And Caves of Androzani is legitimately one of the best episodes ever,
Yeah.
but most of it's pretty bland, like Arc of Infinity and Warriors of the Deep, and some others that we're getting to. God, if I've gone through one trivia so far, this is painful. Although we've still got 45 minutes to get through it, that's all right.
Yeah.
For the role of Charles Xavier, James McAvoy shaved his head.
Hey,
It's
and
something,
it's
that
great.
it's something that he actually did do for First Class before he learned that the producers wanted him to have a full head of hair. Do you remember that?
Which they showed a clip to as well. They showed First Class between Magneto and Charles, which is cool. And
Yeah,
I forgot how short hairs was back then. Like it was super long in this film, and then it was
the only thing, like, obviously I was saying that he's starting to become more like Patrick Stewart in this film, which is great, but the only thing that's a little bit nitpicky is the eyes are so different. Like James McAvoy's eyes are massive and Patrick Stewart's are tiny. But they won't ever explain it. Because why would they? What's the point? I feel so bad that this is probably the last time we might see him, unless he's in Dark Phoenix, but I'm not sure about that. I don't even know.
I mean, like, properly, and like he gets to fully live as Patrick Stewart's character, basically. Because I feel like they're gonna waste him in Dark Phoenix.
It's that annoys me too, because the ending of this film, even though I don't like Apocalypse, the very last scene feels like a good ending for his character.
Yeah, it does. It does, and the shot is really cool.
So if he's in it again, it'll just be stupid.
Yeah.
The film was to be subtitled Age of Apocalypse, after the comic of the same name, but this was changed to Apocalypse because of Age of Ultron, Age of Extinction, and the Age of Adeline. So they submitted to Transformers. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been really weird with Quicksilver being in two Age of Marvel films. You were like,
Yeah,
which one is he in? Is it Age of Apocalypse or Age of Ultron? Oh, it's both.
yeah, completely different actor, completely different characterization.
Mhm. And two differentials of quality. Even though Age of Ultron isn't great, it's still like got meaningful substance to it for the future of the MCU.
Yeah, and I really like the twist of his death as well in Age of Ultron.
Mhm. Mm.
Because it's built up, the entire movie's built around Hawkeye like losing something.
Yeah.
It's like a good subversion, you know, as opposed to
Mhm.
this, which is not.
Yeah, like good subversion, unlike other stuff the last couple of years.
You didn't see me coming.
Didn't see that coming. Uh,
It's kind of sad though because they never reference him again after that. Like, is
he
he?
hasn't been referenced once
Did they
in terms
mention
of
him at
like
all in Civil War?
no.
Oh fuck.
They mentioned the like obviously Sokovia, but they
Mm.
never mentions like hey, he died.
Yeah. That's a bit out of character for Scarlet Witch. Not even mention him once, you know.
Hmm. Obviously, I will say that I do think that Hawkeye does mention like he has a debt like to pay by taking care of Scarlet Witch, so he does reference that. But I don't think Scarlet ever
Actually, I think
does.
I think I've just figured out why. It's possible that Fox maybe said don't reference the name
Yeah, probably.
Civil War. That might be why they made the script a bit more like that thing that happened in that film that we can't talk about.
Mm.
It's just weird. Like Days of Future Past and Apocalypse have made Age of Ultron very odd in my mind. Like they've muddied my memory of it. It's weird.
Mm.
Yeah. This is a very I feel like this is a very awkward time for films, like around this point, because
Yeah,
this is
it
what
really is.
Dark like it was like when Iron Man 3, Dark World, like um this film, and then you got like uh what was I gonna say? Oh, what is it? Oh, the fucking Man of Steel was around this time as well. I think
Man,
2013-ish.
yeah, because this year also was Batman versus Superman because it was
Mm,
2016.
yeah. It was quite a weird time. I suppose we had Winter Soldier and Guardians, which are bloody great, but everything else was a bit awkward. It was kind of the post Avengers hangover where people were like, we don't know what
Mm.
else to do with these films.
Yeah,
So,
it really was.
and then we got Civil War and Logan and Deadpool, which
And
were.
it really revitalized, I think, the genre, I think, in
Mm.
terms of
I
interest.
just
Because I think
remember,
it was way. Yeah.
I just remember for ages, like after Avengers, like it was barely ever even mentioned superhero films to me. Like Guardians of the Galaxy, because obviously wrestling got mentioned to me. But overall, I was very out of the loop. And then suddenly in 2016, I saw like Civil War, Deadpool everywhere. Everywhere I went, it was just nonstop. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
In the comics, Mystique is the mother of Nightcrawler. Ah.
Mm.
Apparently, there's a outtake in X-Men 2 where she references this.
Oh.
Michael Fassbender improvised the "Is this what you want from me?" line.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a bit over the top, but it wasn't bad.
I think that
Because I think because he has
this
suffered a
film in
lot as the
general has
character.
a very bad habit of like cheesy lines, and like I said,
It does.
they feel like they come straight out of an anime, like a kid's anime,
Yeah. Hmm.
especially in the final act. It's
Hmm.
fucking ridiculous how cheesy it is.
Yeah.
Xavier's wheelchair in the teaser trailer is the same one Patrick Stewart used in X-Men 1, but it's not the one from the film. Oh well, teaser trailers. Was it like 20,000 Star Destroyers or some bullshit?
Enlightening.
Because, J.J. Abrams is a 5-year-old. and thinks that's what.
Because you got to amplify it by 10 times. Obviously, it makes it 10 times scarier.
Yeah, like what is he like?
Maths.
What's wrong with him? Seriously, like what's his idea for Star Wars? Oh yeah, let's just do Star Wars, but times 10.
Star Wars, but switchblades and lightning storms.
Oh yeah.
What an impractical weapon.
I don't understand. Like, it's so odd that Hollywood, this place that's meant to be the creative output of the best minds in the world, produces so much shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's odd. It's very odd. I don't understand how people can be so lazy with their writing. I suppose it's all about the money, really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, can't wait to get to the Star Wars reviews. I'm gonna have a proper go at some of those because I actually have passion towards those as opposed to these.
Yeah.
I've watched most of those films like 20 times over, so I'm gonna have a lot to say. And if I don't like something, I'm gonna be very angry about it because I care about Star Wars, as do most fans, and that's why when there's a bad film, that's why you see hundreds of video essays on YouTube about it because we care. Because it has meaning, it's significant, and we want the people that make these films to care about the fans and the story and not just fucking put 10,000 spaceships in it to make it look cool. I don't give a damn about that. Give me a good story. Fucking idiots. Now they're going to give douchebag and dickhead a trilogy.
As
God
well as
damn.
Ryan Johnson.
God damn it, we
You're
want
getting
a
six more Star Wars films.
God damn it, we want a zombie polar bear. Yeah, I feel like that's the two kinds of Game of Thrones fans there are. There's the ones that watch it for like the Red Wedding, and then there's the ones that watch it for the zombie polar bears. Fucking Christ.
And then you get the ones that think foreshadowing is good character writing.
It's not even fucking foreshadowing. They surrendered.
I will not be queen of the ashes.
But it doesn't make sense. They surrendered.
I guess you don't know what ashes actually are, Danny.
Why didn't she go and burn the castle down?
No, but do a zigzag of the entire thing, and then go after
Mowed the lawn.
Cersei.
She mowed the lawns.
I mowed the lawn of the fucking town or city.
The only reason why they died is because of luck.
She just happened to kill Cersei, even though that should have been her fucking.
I was
main
watching
goal.
all this Bridal Rage in that episode.
Yeah,
it's so funny when Varys Varys sets his evil letters on fire, puts them inside an enclosed space, and puts the lid on it, which means the fire would have stopped. This is a character who is one of the most smartest players in the game, and then by then he's just a fucking idiot. I'm going to sit in my queen's castle that I want to kill, send evil letters inside her own fucking castle, and not even burn it properly when a security comes in.
I'll put a piece of paper over it.
This is the spider we're talking about. The person who has the most connections in the whole world.
She's my queen.
She's my queen.
My brother was watching episode 5 the other day. I just walked in because I was waiting for food, and then that scene of when the bald guy, I don't know his name, he dies, and I'm just like, this is odd. And then Jon Snow's just like, I don't want it. You're my queen. I'm just like, that's the meme, and I'm just like, oh god, this is awful.
So bad.
I walked out just before Danny was annoyed that she didn't fuck her, though.
Oh yeah, didn't have incest. Great.
I will rule by fear, but then I'll kill them when they show fear.
The thing is, though, it makes sense because Targaryens are incestual, but it's just so... It doesn't mean anything. There's no significance. It's literally just... Oh, it's the most stagnant, fucking stupid ending.
I feel bad for Emily Clark. Because she knows how fucking awful it is.
Yeah.
Disappointing, as Harrington said. Whatever the actor's name is.
Yeah, Kit Harington, yeah. It's unfortunate as well, because most of the characters that lasted till the end are, like, the weakest actors in the show.
Yeah.
Aside, obviously, Peter Dinklage, who's great. But, like, Kit Harington, Amelia Clark, and the guy who plays Grey Worm are, like, three of the weakest.
Yeah.
Ugh. Fucking, like, season one's acting is just top tier. It's so good.
Best season ever!
Yeah. I remember when I saw Mark Addy in advertising for Series 11, I was so excited, because he's literally 10 out of 10 as Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones. But then when he appeared in the Battle of fucking rancid old peanut jars and anus fly traps, it was awful. It was just boring. How the fuck do you make Mark Addy boring? He's played Robert Baratheon and Fred Flintstone, and how the fuck was Paltraki such a boring character? I don't understand how Chibnall's brain works. How can you be so dull? He must have, like... Does he have, like a mental illness or something?
Mental illness of writing. Writeasus.
Like,
Right,
everything
Jesus.
he does feels so laboured.
Hmm.
Even the stuff that's brilliant, like Broadchurch, is so... It's so weirdly dull. Like, none of it feels stylish. It's so stagnant.
It's very dialogue heavy. I will agree on that.
Yeah. Like, it's obviously very good, but when it comes to...
I
like,
think Broadchurch is great.
it is great,
Obviously, it's not sci-fi.
But yeah, and also he has a lot of passion put into it, and he knew what he was doing. But when you look at, like, its style, it's so... There's just no flavor. It's very standard, and I think that it's got a universal appeal because of that. But then when you take Doctor Who, it's like, you can't do that with Doctor Who. You can't make it boring like that.
It needs to be stylish. It needs to be.
It has to be
unique.
stylish. It's sci-fi. It's not fucking...
It's not a basic soap opera.
Even...
It's funny
and
because
I would
RTD did soap opera and it was great.
And I would even say Broadchurch is more stylish than Chibnall's Doctor Who.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I don't even like that genre. I think that genre is, like, stale as shit, but, like, it's still better than Doctor Who because it's got good writing, because Chibnall actually fucking cares about it. And because it's adult. So he actually does something proper rather than just...
And David Tennant's in it.
The Doctor and her friends, yeah!
Fam.
And Jodie Whittaker's actually cast in a role that she fits. It's like, there's people that only watch Series 11 and think she's shit. It's like, have you seen Broadchurch? Have you seen Black Mirror? She's actually alright. It's just
she's great in Broadchurch.
It's just the...
I was shocked at how dull she was when looking back on Series 11. I was just like, at the time I thought she was good, but when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, but she could have been so much more.
She just has no subtext to her character. She's just some adventurer. But she's cringe.
Which is fine, but you need to have more than just that.
Oh, well. Oh, hope for the best in Series 12, but at the moment she's by far my least favourite Doctor. And it's not because she's a woman. It's because the character's not good.
No, because the character is not great.
Honestly, like, if it was a male, it would be even worse. Because there'd be nothing.
Yeah.
Like, literally the only thing about her Doctor that's interesting, that makes her different from the others, is that she's female. That's it.
Yeah. It's a twist on it. So there's at least some uniqueness to it. Doesn't run with it, though.
Storm is never referred to by name in the entire film.
Oh, so it must be a different character then, because I wouldn't imagine Storm being wasted in an X-Men film.
It's funny because, like, we really like Days of Future Past, but she's wasted in that as well.
Yes. And she dies, isn't it?
Fucking... What a mess this series
They
is.
just don't like Cyclops or Storm. They're just they're freaky mutants. They've got
The
no
only
character.
the only time I've ever seen Chibnall's writing not be bland is Torchwood, but that's literally because he writes episodes about like sex gas and like a cyber woman with it's you have to go to the most extreme level to bring something out of him.
Mhm.
Like you literally have to have a show that revolves around the most vulgar things that you can put on TV for him to actually do something interesting. And even then it's still not good. It still has problems. It's like, oh, I'll just do brain surgery. It's easy. Brain transplant, 5 minutes. And then his fucking dialogue as well. When when we were together, we heard a dog pissing on the tent. It's
I
supposed to be.
guess we're gonna have to have a conversation. What? God, that was the most out of place thing in Resolution.
God. Anything that was like non-Dalek in that episode was just.
Well,
Ugh.
yeah. Everything non-Dalek was good. Everything Dalek was actually I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Should have made it a little bit more restricted, but at the same time very feared, like you had. But
Yeah. Also, I was thinking about something the other day. It's like it's got that shitty, rusty, like, um, old Sheffield steel Dalek casing.
Dalek. Now we've added Sheffield Steel.
Ugh. But you know how it's like it's meant to be like a makeshift Dalek, right?
Yeah.
Why does how does it have those like high-tech missiles?
Yeah. You can argue that he got the missiles from the Black Ark. I can't remember what the place was called. From all there, and then implemented. So that's fine, but I feel like it still should have had an element of restrictedness.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels a bit odd that a Dalek that looks that shit has the firepower to throw those missiles.
And like lights and glows, and that's very looks very high tech.
Mm.
I think you should have had it be a lot more like restricted and very like grounded. I think.
Well, I mean, the reason why it works in Dalek is because it's all messed up, but then when it connects to the electricity, it fixes itself, and it's all pristine.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, like Into the Dalek and Resolution are just poor remakes of Dalek. God, why can't Rob Sherman be the showrunner? Probably because he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want the responsibility. He's also an artist writer as well. Like he likes self-contained stories. But that's why his Big Finish range is so fucking brilliant. Like it's slightly. It does make me sad that he didn't return to adapt any more of his stories after Dalek.
Yeah.
Because literally, like series 2, like take away like Fear Her Idiot's Lands and replace it with Scherzo or Chimes of Midnight, and you've got a classic right there. Holy Terror. There's one other one I've listened to as well. Hang on, I can't remember which one it is. It's wrong. It was Jubilee, but that's already been done. Obviously, that was Dalek. But yeah, I had a great I've like a great alternative series too with like the penultimate before Army of Ghosts is Robert Sherman adapting Scherzo, because it's an Eighth Doctor romantic story, but it's very dark. It's like a story that's in like a parallel universe that's got nothing in it. It's only the characters, and all that you can hear is sound. And it's really messed up. And I reckon if Sherman had adapted that into series 2, it could have made a really interesting chapter in the Dr. Rose story, rather than just fucking Elvis on a bike. Ugh. I mean, what do you know? Uh, why do people love Series 4 so much? Because Mark Gatiss has nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Though he has nothing to do with Series 11. But that's, yeah. Weirdly, though, he's probably one of the less shit parts of Series 7, but that's not saying much.
Yeah, that
It's,
really isn't saying much because I
it's
don't
not,
like Series 7 at all.
it's, it's not hard to be that.
Like, there's not a single episode in Series 7 that I think is worth talking about as a whole.
From the main series?
Yeah.
Because what about Dave the Doctor?
Oh yeah, Day of the Doctor, but I'm talking about the main like core series,
Yeah.
like episode 1 to episode 13.
Yeah. It's very
Like,
much
I really couldn't give two shits about the entire series as a whole from that like
well,
era.
it's very much flavor of the week, which is why I think I like.
It is the most apparent flavor of the week.
And it's probably why I like A Town Called Mercy, because it's a western, and I like westerns, and I like it. I like Toby Whithouse, and I like when the Doctor's darkness is explored well, like it is, especially with Matt Smith, because we barely fucking get that with Matt Smith. And that one stands out literally only because of that, because it's the flavor that I'm suited towards. And because everything else is not that flavor, it's just like, well, I don't have time for this shit. Because there's people that love Hyde because it's gothic, but I'm just like, yeah, but it's fucking.
But it's not good though. It's ridiculous and stupid and silly.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but if you think Series 7 is one of the best Doctor Who series in the entire show, you are blind. You are. Like, it baffles me that people think it's good because there is no connection, there's no weight, there's no emotion behind it that I can get behind when you've got as a bland Doctor at that point in time, a bland companion who literally is just a plot point. She's literally just a plot point. She has no likes, dislikes, or characteristics. And then you've got one-off stories every single week, which will have no bearing on the series as a whole.
And they all have rushed endings.
All rush endings, and it is so American. I say this quite a lot about Moffat's like era with Matt Smith, apart from Series 5. It's so American, and it pisses me off because it's not even good American television. It is drivel, over the top, cheesy, silly shit. And that's what Series 6 and 7 is.
Yep.
Like I can't stand Series 7. It's the one series out of all of them that legitimately angers me and pisses me off the most and makes me hate the show. Because like it's just nothing. There's no style. There's no substance. There's nothing I can connect to on an emotional level or even just an entertainment level.
The fact that it happened over 2 years as well is such a shame.
It's the longest one, and it's like the most forgettable era of the show. Sorry if you like it, but it is forgettable. It's not written well. It's not handled well. It's a mess. And objectively, I think it's the worst era of Doctor Who. I really do. No one's ever going to get me to convince it's any better than Bottom. It's never getting higher than that. Because at least with Series 6, there's 2 episodes I really get into.
What if they included Classic Who as well?
Well, if I watched all of Classic Who, then I could make a proper judgment on that. But from what I've seen, full series or full season, which is just New Who, it's the worst because it's full of nothingness. It is a nothing series. It's empty, it's shallow, it's drivel, and it's hateful and pitiful for me.
Yep. And Moffat doesn't even like it.
Yeah. So if you like it, I'm sorry, but the man who made it hates it too, so you are blind.
Yep. And Rob Sheeran's wife hates it too, so you should hate it.
As you should. It's fucking awful.
Was it after Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, she hit him and said, if you ever write anything like that, we're getting a divorce.
And if he ever did, she'd have every right.
Rob
'Cause that-
Sheeman, Rob Sheeman couldn't even write something like that if he tried.
Yeah.
He's too
Like he
smart.
couldn't.
You know
It's
what's
like
so funny? You know what's so funny? I listened to an interview of him recently. When he wrote The Chimes of Midnight, he thought it was shit, and now it's the most famous Big Finish story ever. He's just like, oh, I didn't know. I thought I messed it up. I wrote it in a rush. I didn't know if it ended up well. And now it's like the highest selling Big Finish story. It's like 10 out of 10. I've reviewed it on my channel. Both Adam and I gave it a 10. It's literally perfect. It's fucking incredible. And the fact that like that's only been listened to by like a few thousand people, yet Series 7 was watched by millions is such a fucking shame.
Like if Series 7 was a physical form, I would punch the hell out of it because I hate it so much.
Mm.
I wish Series 7 was wiped from existence.
With Hellbent.
Yeah. Because then we wouldn't get Clara.
Mm. Sophie Turner became interested in the role of Jean when she received an overwhelming response from a fan survey asking if their preferred choice to play the role as well as her Twitter followers. Okay,
It's a shame she was shit, though.
Yeah,
if you really cared about the character, you would have given it your all, but you
she was
clearly didn't.
miscast.
Yeah.
Did I mention the third problem with her performance is her accent as well?
Oh, no, you didn't. Let's say that, but
yeah, because she's
accent.
That's another thing is obviously she's British, so she had to put on an accent for it, which is another hard step.
Yeah,
and it's very monotone American. God, I'm just scrolling through this trivia. It's trying to find
Fact
something.
number 10. This film is shit. Fact number 11. Sophie Turner is shit in this film. Fact number 12. It is the worst X-Men film I have ever seen. I don't know, maybe. Sure.
I think Origins is probably more damaging, but it's got Hugh Jackman. But it's got Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's there's still one or two bits that I actually like.
I mean, Origins pissed me the fuck off, but this was very boring. Very boring. Like, that's one thing I can say about Dave and Dan is, aside from the finale of Game of Thrones, this stuff isn't boring. It's just bad. It's very bad. Though
this was like boring and bad.
Though season 8, episode 6 of Game of Thrones, the finale is boring. It's just full of dead air. It's fucking 2/3 of it is just them walking around.
Oh no, but Daddy dies though.
Yeah, but it's
I'm
just
crying.
How could you fucking get emotional at that? It's just stagnant shit.
It's like getting emotional at Clara's goodbye in Hellbent or something like that. That's what it would feel like to me.
Oh well, some people do apparently.
Yeah. Even though she would never die, because what we know about her character, she would never go back to Gallifrey.
Apparently, this film came out on Ian McKellen's birthday.
Oh, what a bad birthday present.
And Bryan Singer described Apocalypse as a big monster of a movie.
Yeah, because it's a nightmare.
And it's released 10 years after The Last Stand. Well, you fucked up another trilogy, didn't you?
Yeah, you fucked up another number 3. God, I've only got the trailers up and it's running on a loop, and every time Storm comes up, I'm just like, you're a nothing character. You're so generic.
This is the 4th Marvel film to feature a Star Wars reference after Winter Soldier, Deadpool, and Civil War.
And it's the worst one.
Wow, by far. It's not even funny.
But number 3 is also shit. It's like, yeah, you fucking talk about yourselves then, mate.
How Hey, how did this film end up in the same conversation as Winter Soldier, Deadpool, and Civil War?
Well, because it's Marvel. That's literally it. There's no links of quality.
Civil War references Quicksilver.
Yes.
Oh, God. Out of the three movies, this is the one that where Michael Fassbender has the least amount of lines. No fucking surprise.
Shocking. It's almost as if he was wasted.
Yeah. Sophie Turner has blue eyes. Famke Jensen has dark brown eyes. Oh wow, it's a plot hole. Great. Another one.
It's like Harry's mother's eyes. So you have your mother's eyes.
Oh
they're
God.
different.
That's one of the worst parts about those films. But we'll get to those eventually.
One day.
Okay. Give your conclusion and a rating out of 10 for X-Men Apocalypse.
Oh, well, X-Men Apocalypse is such a groundbreakingly amazing film with so many character-driven plots, and it's all built up to an amazing conclusion. No, this film is awful. Its characters are so mischaracterized. It's nothing. It's almost insulting at some parts because of how bland it is. It wastes a lot of characters. I mean, it looks pretty. It's a pretty film. It's got nice colours. Other than that, it's fucking awful. So I'm gonna give it like a. Oh, do I? Hmm.
So how low are
What's
we going in?
Yeah. What's the lowest one I've given out of all the
Oh,
X-Men
Captain
films?
Marvel and Amazing Spider-Man 2, you gave 2
Um.
to.
Yeah, but what about the X-Men films? What
Oh,
one?
Origins Wolverine was 3.5. It was below Incredible Hulk.
Fuck it. I'm giving this a 2.5 out of 10.
So, in between Captain Marvel, Amazing Spider-Man
Yeah.
2, and what was above it? Oh, Hulk 2003. So,
Yeah.
wow. So this is worse than Hulk.
Because at the very least, this film doesn't have to retcon stuff to make this better. You know, it doesn't insult my intelligence. It's just insultingly bad. Doesn't It's not trying to force anything upon me.
Yeah, but you think this is worse than Hulk 2003?
Yeah, because I have because this is a whole franchise and it's meant to be building up to something, it makes me feel like I've wasted my time. With Hulk 2003, it's a bad film, but it's just one film. And once I'm done with it, I'm done with the whole sort of
And
world.
it does have one really good character in it.
Yeah. This one has decent one or two characters, but they're wasted.
Hmm.
And plus, this film makes fun of itself indirectly.
Yeah. And
So yeah.
one thing
yeah.
I've heard about this film is it kind of makes Days of Future Past feel redundant, and it's absolutely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, it's a real shame because I fucking love Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2.5 out of 10. It's the worst X-Men film so far.
Well, that's the rating I gave The Invasion of Time. It was an invasion of my time.
I'm just going through this trailer here, and there's a shot of the girl from the Star Wars joke, but she's never in anything else in the film. So I don't know why they keep putting her in this trailer. It's like she was just in the Star Wars joke.
Yeah. Okay. X-Men Apocalypse was a boring, stupid film that interrupted my Australia holiday for 45 minutes. I threw my phone down and went away to, much more interesting things, as you can imagine. Fucking hell, even cleaning up my bloody hotel room was more interesting than watching this film. Because at least I could read the packaging of my rubbish. Yeah, X-Men Apocalypse, very disappointing. Takes the great parts of First Class and Days of Future Past and makes them redundant and just stupid. Subversive comedy was bad. The direction didn't utilize its high definition cameras to its full potential like it should. The story was shit. The villain was shit. the fact that I couldn't really keep my eye on this film because it was so boring and I had to do other things whilst I was doing it, like Photoshop, which was way better. I loved doing my Photoshop. That was fun. I've designed some stuff for the channel coming up, so I won't tell you what that is, but I think it's pretty cool and much better than this god awful film. I'm never fucking watching this ever again in my life unless I absolutely have to, but I don't think I will ever have to because I've just reviewed it. So it's in the books. This is the worst X-Men film I've ever seen, so it's worse than Origins, which means it's below a 4. Because I think I gave Origins a 4? Was it? I think it was a 4. Now, just going through my head the film's ratings. So worse than Origins, worse than Incredible Hulk, worse than The Amazing Spider-Man 1. So what does that leave? That leaves Captain Marvel and Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think. At Captain Marvel, I gave a 2, and Amazing Spider-Man 2, I gave a 1.5. I can't think of any other films I gave below a 4. I can't remember. I don't think I did. Only episodes, Doctor Who. I think I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to give this a 2.5. Slightly better than Captain Marvel, I would say.
Slightly. Just slightly, though.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's... X-Men Apocalypse was a fucking shit film and a big disappointment. And I'm really annoyed that... I wish I didn't even watch it. I wish we skipped it. Because I would have had a much better memory of...
We would have gone straight into Logan if we skipped it, so yeah.
Days of Future Past would have been a great ending.
Yeah, it really would have. You really didn't need more prequel X-Men films because it was complete. Even though they did 2, it was a complete sort of thing. So take this out of the franchise and nothing changes, really.
Yeah. And with that said... Next week, we're going to be reviewing Logan, which I've never seen before.
Mm-hmm. I have.
And I've had, ever since it's come out, I've had people hype it to me to the absolute moon. Got all fingers crossed, because I'm hoping that it's like Deadpool and it lives up to it. Hoping it's not like a Ragnarok or a Guardians 2 where it doesn't, for me. I desperately, desperately want to love this film when I watch it. And I'm hoping that I do. And if I don't, that's a shame. And I know I'm going to be in the minority if I don't. But I fucking hope I love it. Because it just... It feels like this has been a long time coming for this series. The one thing I want... We got it in the Wolverine. We did get it in the Wolverine. And we sort of got it in Days of Future Past. But I want that film... that features that character of Wolverine that's done at the best level it can possibly be done. So, like, you know, there were parts I liked about the Wolverine, but I don't want shitty sick samurai. I don't want like extra studio interference. I just want, you know, I want a film about Wolverine that's as focused as Deadpool, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah, so I'm expecting this film. If it's this film is not my favorite X-Men film after watching it, I'll be really shocked. Because when I watched it when it came out on DVD, I loved it so much. So, and I hadn't even watched any X-Men films. It was the first one I watched. So, all this build-up, I'm expecting to love it even more than I did before. And if I don't, I'll be really shocked and think something's wrong with me.
I feel like it's quite possible that your experience watching this film might be like when I rewatched Infinity War with context. Because when I watched that the first time, I'd only seen Avengers and Spider-Man. That was it. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a pretty cool like quest story, and Thanos is a great character. And it's got some superhero action scenes and some stuff that I didn't really understand. And then I rewatched it after all seeing all the films. I'm like, that is legitimately one of the best films I've ever seen in my fucking life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if I like don't like it as much as I did before, I'll probably think something's wrong with me.
yeah. Anyway, we're almost about 3 hours. So I'm gonna have to hit
Yep.
stop recording now. See you next time for Logan. Fingers crossed it's great.